Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV, and what a momentous occasion this is for round 8 of the 2025 V8SCOPS season. For the first time in series history, we're in virtual South Australia at the Bend. Oh, I've been looking forward to this one for so long. Obviously, it was somewhat of a shoo-in for this year's season, but because of the time it was released, it wasn't quite on the season calendar at the start, but it replaced Navarra, and we're here, ready to go racing in Australia for one of Australia's top sim racing championships, bringing it to you live here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. It's me, Reese Gardner, with Scott Rankin alongside me in the commentary box, Dan Yeaman behind the scenes, producing, bringing you these live pictures. Tell you what, Mr. Rankin, this circuit has very quickly made a name for itself in the real-life racing world, and I think it's on its way to making a name in the sim world as well.
I think one of the biggest things when you take a look at this track and you take a look at a lot of the features that are often around the area is flat. There's a tiny little bit of elevation change. There's no real characteristics to the corners. And then you get out there on track and you start turning laps and you all of a sudden go, oh, there's a little rise on the run of turn 1. Then it falls away. Then it's a late apex here. It's a late apex there. It's technical braking zones. It's long radius corners. And it's down here to the east of Adelaide as well in South Australia. Shell V-Power Motorsports Park International Circuit. And this one's only 5 kilometers in length and the 18 turns, but we get all the way up and over 7 kilometers when we get to the the GT layout, because this one's the international layout as well. Little bit of an option in terms of configuration, so you can absolutely get ready for the next few years of this track getting used and used and used. It's been a while since we've had an Australian track added to the sim. I think it was Sandown and Winton back about 3 years ago. I think was the last time we actually saw some fresh content from the Australian side of things, but it just whets your appetite, because really this is probably the least exciting racing track that we're going to get for a while. The next one's Adelaide, and that's what I've got my eyes set on.
Absolutely, from the very same region as the Bend. This circuit is so tough, isn't it? One of 3 FIA Grade 2 listed venues in Australia, including the Gold Coast Street Circuit and Sydney Motorsport Park. And it really shows. It's got a very high standard of facilities and a lovely smooth surface, challenging corners, as you said, heavy braking zones at turn 1 and turn 17. Turn 6 hairpin going to be a good overtaking opportunity as well, but that back section from turn 7 all the way through the exit of turn 12 is one I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. Bit of a multi-apex right-hander affair that's going on there.
And the trickiest part is spotting where to turn in, particularly down at turn 12, because it actually comes back on itself. It's one of those tracks similar to Jerez, down towards the back end of Jerez, whereby you've got, I think it's turn 9 at Jerez, where it sort of doubles back on itself, and it looks like it's a 90-degree corner on the track map, but it's actually significantly more than that. It's more than 90 degrees, and turn 12 is quite like that. Getting the turn-in points as well, and the car balance nicely. You're right, you've isolated that little segment there. It's probably going to be fairly single file, getting the job done, but what it will present is an opportunity for people to make mistakes. It's turn 6, you're right, one of the best overtaking opportunities on the circuit, and then the run down the start-finish straight, very, very long start-finish straight as well. So that's what we've got in store in terms of the track map race.
Yep, certainly have. And we'll be moving very quickly through to Split 2 action here. We've got a 21-lap race with a compulsory pit stop. There is a fuel tank restriction, so you will have to take fuel at some point during this race. Expected fuel tank range is around 15 to 16 laps, so get your fuel in and get to the end. You don't have to take tires, but I'd imagine you'd want to, because there's so many long curved acceleration zones around here. I think the rear tires will be put through the ringer.
I think the biggest thing is if you come into pit lane and you're taking more than about 18, 19, 20 litres, you're definitely taking a set of tyres, no matter where you are. That's sort of anything beyond that, you may as well grab them. The big thing is, opening at the end of lap 2 as well. So if we get an early safety car, that will play its way into this one. That will be relevant. And look, I mean, you get a safety car on lap 2 and you're at the rear of the field, you may as well come down and have a crack. The guys going to be caught out are actually the guys up at the pointy end of the field. They're a little bit stuck in terms of what they've got to do. Anyone from maybe halfway down the field back on can try and play a little bit of a strategy card and get themselves home. So there will be some strategy cards, I think, played at different points in time. Remember we were talking about rise and fall on the run of turn number 1? Yeah, there it is. That big lip just before you get there into the braking zone as well.
Yeah, very subtle when you're in the car, but very easy to see when you get out on track. Byron Phillips topping the practice session for Eclipse Sim Sports, making his way through turn 3. One thing that I have noticed about the hairpins at this circuit, particularly turn 3 and turn 6, they tighten up a lot right in the middle. So it's a very open entry, open exit, but right in the middle of the corner, there's this sort of hard turn that you have to make, and you really need to plan out your trajectory through the corners here. I haven't driven a V8 around this circuit, but I've done plenty of laps in GT4 and in the new Ferrari Challenge car that was added to iRacing recently, and yeah, it's a really good primer for what is needed from this racetrack. Traction is incredibly important as well. There are quite a few long corners, so you do need to focus on mid-corner speed and such, but then this opening section that Troy Stone Street's demonstrating for us here, hard right at turn 1, blending through turn 2, and then right back on the brakes for turn 3, stop, start, and mechanical grip is what you need to be searching for in that section. There's just so much variation around this racetrack. I think it's hard to find a real setup direction for it.
That's the problem, because you've absolutely you nailed a couple key aspects on there. You've got to have mid-corner turn, but you've also got to have the car put its traction down really, really nicely. It's those long radius corners, and again, like you said, the car corners that double down. It's not an easy track to set up for. You've got dips everywhere as well. This little crest runs down. This is down through the complex at 8. This is 9. That's 11 there. The short little chute here down through the complex at 12. So back to the left. Watch how late this actually opens up here at turn 12, the right-hander right here. You've got to wait. You can't drift out too early. And then you've got to keep it nice and tidy running down this little chute to 13. And 13 is actually uphill at the same time as well. And again, narrows on exit. Where the groove goes, there's actually less room than you think on the exit. You come into it and think it's going to be a nice little sweeper. It's not. And then this corner right here, I struggled to get the car to do exactly what I wanted it to do. You can go in very, very shallow at that next hairpin. You can attack it very wide, sweep back, try and carry the speed, but that line leaves you vulnerable. So you nearly got to take the middle of the two just to protect yourself a little bit in the racing situation.
Yeah, and this corner is such a hard stop. It's the slowest one on the circuit. I was genuinely surprised going through there just how sharp that penultimate turn is. But then there's a nice wide curb that you can run off there at pit entry. Troy Stone Street practicing his pit entry here, all the way down to 40 k's an hour, which is the pit speed for most supercars race venues. And yeah, I think that stretch through turns 12 and turns 13 is probably the most difficult to get right. You mentioned how long turn 12 goes on, how late the exit is. My first 5 or 6 laps around this layout, I kept running wide there. That's how difficult it is. It took me so long to actually get that part of the circuit down, but once I did, the time just came to me, and I'm sure the drivers will be feeling the same right now. It's the end of practice. 21 laps of racing ahead of us for Split 2. It is time to go through the grid. Jamie Dyke has managed to pre-qualify on pole position for this race, with Troy Stone Street joining him on the front row. Very interesting front row indeed for those drivers. The not quite the fastest in practice, so there might be some variation on that particular relative positions compared to those further back in the field. But James Chastaneuf and Stephen Banks are your second row, with Ricky Durham and Jordan Mazzaroli rounding out your top 6. In 7th place, Paul Young, Phase 4 Motorsport car number 40, alongside Kenneth Latter, with Blake Urquhart and Alan Dawson rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, outside the 10th going to be that of William Brown from Kevin Norman on row number 6, 11th and 12th, Jack Andrews and Jack Snov on row number 7. 15th and 16th place, Jaden Green from David Kirby and the Fishy Motorsport Century, Blake Fitz and Jared Lamprey, 17th and 18th. Thomas Hins and Sebastian Vandel are going to be rounding out the 20.
Yeah, Thomas Hins looking to see what he can do from all the way back there. Trent Bennett and Daniel Hall are your 11th row, with Ryan Nielsen and Dion DeGraaf, 23rd and 24th. Peter Pavlovich and Jack Pickett on row 13. Rob Crisdale, 27th, alongside Bradley Sachs. And then Byron Phillips and Vincent Skillbeck round out your top 30 cars. Harry Dodds, Stephen Tonkin, Blake Neck, Dylan O'Shea, Jamie McKnight and Andrew Ritchie are your 36 cars that will be taking to the start tonight here. We do apologize for there being no grid graphic, but regardless, you'll be able to see where everyone is when they jump on the track and we get ready for the start. Now, you mentioned at the top of the show, Scott, start finish straight, very long indeed. It's a long run to turn 1.
I think we're missing our pole sitter.
Yeah, Jamie Dyke hasn't gotten onto the grid yet, but he still has about 40 seconds to get himself onto the grid. Maybe he's just leaving it.
Yeah, showing him is in the sim, so just hoping that he's going to get there. A couple of cars a little bit further down. Yeah, long run to turn 1 as well, and as well, you're going to be firing in there at under racing speed as well. So ultimately, that first braking zone is going to be a little bit shorter than otherwise necessarily needs to be. And the other thing to consider as well is have a look at 1, 2, 3. We sort of feed back into each other. And it's a flat out section. Then there'll be a couple of bombs then at turn 6 on lap number 1 as well. I think you've got to be aggressive down here and trying to get to the inside of the road for turn 1, because it'll give you the inside at turn 3.
Yep, first time we'll see a V8SCOPS race start at the bend. Revs rising. And the symphony descends. Run into turn 1. Keep an eye out as the lights are out and we are away for V8SCOPS Split 2 at the bend. Slightly slow start from Blake Urquhart and Paul Young in the midfield, but into turn 1, it's going to be Jamie Dyke leading the way, moves over to the racing line. James Chastaneuf puts Troy Stonestreet out of second place. There's a big slide there for Stephen Banks, almost took out our front row starter. And Stephen will get the inside for turn 3. Stonestreet, Chastaneuf and Dyke leading us away there as it's all packed up in the midfield. Durham getting past Jordan Mazzaroli. Contact further back. Things are starting to get dicey.
Yeah, remember I said it was get yourself to the inside at turn 1. It gives you the inside at turn 3 as well. So you sort of get 2 bites at the cherry. That's what a lot of that was about. Now settle yourself down when you get down to here to turn 6. And a big moment for Alan Dawson. He's going to go tumbling back down through the field as well. And Dion DeGraaf just mic'd up. I think there might be an issue on the way down into turn 6.
Yeah, Vincent Skillbeck was sprawled across the field there, and it looks like William Brown has had a problem too. There was big issues for Dion DeGraaf and Vincent Skillbeck. Looks to me like Dylan O'Shea might have been the cause of the contact. We'll endeavour to get a replay of that for you all, but for the moment, Jamie Dyke continues to lead the way around turn 1. We are just through turn 13 now, about to enter the final sector, and it's looking pretty spaced out up the front, but man, the fighting is hard in the midfield.
Yeah, that it is. Chastaneuf's found his way through to second place, so a good jump at least for him. But the big thing is, yeah, trying to find that way in, figure out where you're going to place the car. This is, remember, we're talking about this little flip-flop, and this next corner as they come up and over this rise down here. And there goes the front bumper finally off of the front end of that car. Do you have a dive? Well, just in behind Sebastian Vandel, they are having a go at it. I think that might have been Crisdale, wasn't it, that was trying to get up the inside.
Jared Lamprey there was making the move on Blake Fitzpatrick, I believe. So End of lap 1, side by side again there. That's Byron Phillips and David Kirby that have made contact on the way into pit lane. And, well, I wonder who might be deemed at fault for that one. Byron Phillips is going to have to get back onto the racetrack somehow. He's fallen all the way to the back. There's more dramas. William Brown is around.
Yeah, and against the fence. And he's refiring it at this point in time. So there's a lot of squabbling for lines down there. Dylan O'Shea's just run really, really wide down at turn 3 as well. Trying to go for a move, I think, up the inside of Blake Fitz. They'll go side by side out the other side. Contact is made. Fitz had to lift because he was going to be on the outside here. Vondel ran wide ahead of them, though, so he's going to be the vulnerable factor against Jared Lemprey.
Dylan O'Shea's been at the centre of a lot of dramas here in the opening laps, and we'll see if Vondel and Lamprey can hold him back here, because it looks like O'Shea is steaming forward. I just took another look at the incident for William Brown. It was Byron Phillips trying to get back onto the racetrack at pit entry, made contact with him. So race control, I think, already have their hands full on board here with O'Shea.
That's not a place.
No, that is not a place to go for a pass unless the driver in front makes a mistake. But maybe that's part of O'Shea's strategy. He's trying to force Vondel into an error.
Well, the other option is he could have somebody in his ear saying he's got damage ahead of you. He's got a lot of damage, so every opportunity. And again, he's going to try and fire it up the inside. Vondel covered him. They're both in very deep down here. I'll tell you what, Blake Fitz just says, thank you very much, boys. I'll have both of those spots.
Yeah, yeah, 2 for free. Very nice indeed. Well, O'Shea's going to have to try something else here to find his way forward as the Project 36 Mustang of Jaden Green almost gets turned around there. Seems drivers having a lot of difficulty finding a proper line here in the opening laps. Crisdale might have a go at him here into the final corner. Not quite, but walking wounded early on here. Many drivers unhappy with how their race has gone so far. Still a very long way to go. Jamie Dyke leading and first driver to get into the 152s on race pace.
Yeah, that'll be critical up the front, starting to stretch those legs just a little bit. Wonder if he might just take a little bit too much out of the tyres. Then again, you got to weigh nicely. He might actually be okay. Harry Dodds is going to try and line up Robert Crisdale down at turn 3 and have a go underneath him. This is Jamie Dyke back out in the lead. Chastanoff from Stone Street, Ricky Durham, Jordan Mazzaroli. And these guys are going to go side by side through this fast left-hander. This is Bravery. Bravery around the outside. Doddles will pick that one up. Yeah, got the job done. Now Blake next is going to respond and have a crack as well. Crisdale crosses back over, late on the brakes. And I tell you what, he got that car stopped rather nicely. That's well done. Great return of serve.
Fantastic job there from Rob Crisdale. Next, going to have to find another way through. And same for Harry Dodds as well. This section of the circuit, so difficult to follow because you need those sight lines into these corners. There aren't really any reference points for turn-in and such. So if you're right behind someone, you stand a chance of running wide very easily, but they all get through clean.
They do. Then the run down to turn number 13, a little bit of a lift, then a little bit of a dip, and then it's up and over the crest. And I tell you what, this corner, when you come through it for the first couple of times, you come through, you turn the car in, and you're like, all right, heaps of grip. I can just get back to the throttle, and you run way off the track and into the fence very easily. So it's about patience. This corner as well, again, another one that looks super simple on the surface, but it's so much tighter than 90 degrees. You've got to turn it right back on itself. And slow, and then building the pace out of the final corner. Another corner again. You miss that turn-in point, and the big thing for everyone watching along at home, drivers rely on markers, visible markers, something they can use to see. There is just about no reference points on this track whatsoever.
Yeah, that just increases the difficulty for these drivers. The Bend, of course, still a very new circuit compared to other tracks in Australia. So give it another 10 years and we might see some easier reference points. But for the moment, it is still effectively a brand new venue, and you're still having to search for lines on the track where the rubber starts building up. That's where you need to start braking. That's where you need to turn in, accelerate here, make sure you get through the next corner. It never ends. The only opportunity to rest is that start-finish straight, and even then, considering how competitive this field is, you don't get much of that. Meanwhile, Jack Snov and Jack Andrews, the two Jacks, I suppose you could say, side by side through this section, and off goes Andrews in the Phoenix Racing Team Mustang. He's none too happy with that one. Obviously got a bit shuffled there, but par for the course in that section. It's one line fits all.
Yeah, yeah, and it was bravery trying to hang it out around the outside. You're just about always going to get out either elbowed off, or you'll have no pace coming through the corner. So it's about slotting back into line. Critically, first update coming in from Race Control. You said that Dylan O'Shea has been in the wars today. Drive-through penalty for contact on lap number 1 with car number 091. So that's Vincent Skilbeck, who's gone to the rear of the field, unfortunately for Skilbeck. Looked like he was up at the front. Yeah, it's just not unfortunately going all that well.
Yeah, Dion de Graaf involved in that one as well. So O'Shea's been given the drive-through for the contact with both Skilbeck and de Graaf. So going to be seeing O'Shea jump into the pit lane at some point in the next couple of laps. We're going to have a look at exactly how it went down here on lap 1. The view for Rob Crisdale as everyone fanned out here, and they're all trying to find their place on the run into turn 1. O'Shea is behind Crisdale at this point, now drawing onto his left-hand side. The white and red car there, very deep under the brakes. And, I mean, it was a good first lap from O'Shea. He put his car in exactly the right spot to take advantage of everyone just tiptoeing around each other. But it really started to go down here. 3 wide through turn 3, then out through 4, keeping it clean, but then 3 wide here out of turn 5. O'Shea was trying to recover. Here comes Skilbeck and de Graaf, and O'Shea gets into de Graaf, and that turns Skilbeck, and, well, Vincent couldn't really do much from there.
I also think it's a bit rough, perhaps, on Dylan O'Shea as well, because he's 3 wide there. The tricky thing for him is he's had the tiniest little wiggle, and it's just fired him across to the left-hand side. So he's missed that by nothing, and to make that contact. He was trying to be aggressive, sure. He's 3 wide on lap 1. I don't know. That's lap 1. It's maybe a little bit more of a racing deal for me, but I'll respect the penalty either way.
And Paul Young, it looks like, having a spin by himself there on lap 1 as well. That put him way down, and God, everyone was having to find their way through here. This is Thomas Hins's view of an incident that happened ahead of him, the Project 36 Mustang there, and Hinsey had to come to a stop. There, the exit of turn 6, obviously not kind to many, but a great avoidance from the majority of the field. That could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, sure. Could have been a lot worse, but that opening lap was just a scramble fest, wasn't it? They were 3 wide for so long, and then Byron Phillips is rejoining off the outside here.
Oh,
and
man.
Yeah, that's an unsafe rejoin. He'll be transiting the lane, I'm fairly confident.
Yeah, so, I mean, I understand his need to get back to the racetrack, but drivers have already committed to the exit of turn 1, and there's only so much you can do. I don't think Brown was expecting Phillips to go for it that quickly. Probably expected him to wait a couple of seconds for a gap. Them's the brakes, and sometimes it's the car that breaks.
Well, there was only one more car to come through on that one, which I would have been expecting him to just wait, because there's a gap immediately behind. Back of the shot for Robert Crisdale. Unfortunately, dramas for him.
Losing spots down to 27th position now. That's Stephen Tonkin has found his way past him. Seems some dramas for Crisdale there out of turn 3, and either preemptively defensive for Tonkin or trying to go up the inside there of Ryan Nielsen in the green and black Mustang, nice and wide through turn 6, manages to keep the position from Crisdale. Next news from Race Control, William Brown, 5-second penalty for contact with car 33. That's Jaden Green on lap 1. One of many incidents that Race Control are currently working through.
Yeah, and it was for turn 6, and then there's another one that's come through as well for Sebastian Vandel. Contact with the 728 of Alan Dawson at turn 13 as well. So remember how we were saying that first lap was fairly frantic. I think Race Control are actually still all the way back down there. Critically for Jamie Dyke, though, the pace has kicked on. Not only is he just being quick to get out to the front end of this field and then sort of had that nice opening lap, he's maintaining that speed advantage over everyone else. Jordan Mazzaroli's starting to bring himself back into play just a fraction. And if he can stay relevant to Troy Stone Street, he's an opportunity to transfer out of split 1. Go and have a crack. Out of split 2 into split 1. And later, there's a group of little cars that are just sort of going with those leaders at the moment. And Troy Stone Street must have had an issue on that most recent lap, because he just dropped about 0.4 of a second back to Mazzaroli. So Mazzaroli's coming at him quite quickly.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the level of the pace drop off, because the initial quick lap that still stands from Jamie Dyke is a 152.94. He's setting 154 flats now. It's only been 6 laps, and it's a very cool track. So I don't know if Dyke's maybe just backing off a bit because he knows he has the lead sorted, or maybe there's some kind of issue the drivers are experiencing, these long corners, overheating the tires. But yeah, it's interesting to see that lap times are about a second slower here, only a third into the race.
Yeah. We've fallen off already over that second marker as well. So, yeah, this is going to be really, really critical. 7 laps into this one to keep an eye on just what those tyres are going to do long term. But whether or not, is the plateau going to happen? Is it going to hang around? A few drivers already jumping into the pit lane and trying to clear those pit stops nice and early. And the reason for that is the queue. There is just such a big queue, particularly down at 18th spot at the moment, which I think is Sebastian Varndell. Remember, he's got all that damage on the front end of his car. So he's a cork in the bottle, and the other one's 8th spot at the moment, which is Blake Urquhart, also being a little bit of a cork. So those are the 2 critical spots on track, and a bunch of the guys did just jump into pit lane. I think Dan Hall was the most recent of those. So he's lost a little bit of track position. Thomas Hinz has gained some, and yeah, there's a group of drivers that are sort of in that area. Jaden Green's the first driver to have done his pit stop in 30th spot.
Yeah, so getting his stop out of the way nice and early. Same for many. Trying to nab some kind of undercut. Jack Andrews, the next car to come into the pit lane as we keep an eye here on Sebastian Varndell. And no trace of him going for pit lane just yet, but that car will not be in its optimum state here. You need that front bumper on the car to cut through the air and direct the air where it needs to go for the engine. And he's under attack from Trent Bennett as side by side between Blake Neck and Harry Dodds. That's a position sorted there for Blake. He is up into the top 20 now, up it looks to be 11 positions. Still not the driver with the most positions gained in the field, though. That belongs to Dylan O'Shea, up 20 places, but O'Shea still has a penalty hanging over his head.
Yeah, that he does, and that was all triggered, that move down at turn 1 by the mistake from Harry Dodds off the last corner. So too much traction. I think actually probably carried the throttle a little bit too wide, trying to get back to it, carry that speed off the final corner, out and touch the grass, and spun up that left rear tyre. Unfortunately for him. So, but that's critical for Blake Neck because he looks like he's got a boatload of speed in that car at the moment. You can already see right up to down de Graaf so quickly. So he's going to be all over him, and Varndell's still vulnerable ahead of this queue.
Yeah, you can always count on Blake Neck to pull out the pace where needed. I had him as a teammate for a couple of years, and I got to see firsthand how he gets the pace out of these cars. It's fantastic to see, and it's also proof that your pre-qualifying position doesn't mean much when it comes to race pace. On the day, you can have a fantastic run up through the field. Let's see if Blake Neck has any success getting past Dion de Graaf here. The next passing opportunity, and Varndell and Bennett still haven't sorted themselves out either. Pit stop from further up in the field. Kenneth Latter has jumped in the 269. Seems that there's a bit of a trend forming for sort of early to mid-race being the time you want to take your stop unless you're right up the front.
Yeah, Blake Neck's going to dive out of the queue as well. Again, he's just got all that speed, can't really show it, so he's diving in the pit lane. But remember, we're about 3 laps shy of that halfway mark sort of thing. So this is only just a couple laps early, and this is to grab some track position. So the critical factor is for the guys up at the front, they've got speed. So for Ken Latter, he's got speed. He was starting to trend towards that lead group. If he can get enough of a jump here, he's in a really, really good spot. There is every opportunity he can go forward and make this into something and then just hold the guys off. But you've got to drive these laps very, very quickly. And I also believe this Fishy Motorsports machine as well, not abusing its tires. So it's relatively good. So he should have a really, really good package to not only just grab some track position here, but hang on to it with tire delta. He's not going to get mega harassed, and it's only a 3-lap undercut, pretty much at the most. You'd be silly to go any sort of further than maybe lap 11.
Yeah, fair point as well for Latter as he's come out in clear air. So he doesn't have anyone harassing the back of him. He doesn't have anyone he's trying to pass. When you get into a battle situation, that just puts more heat into the tires. When you come out on your own, you have that opportunity to just drive to your own numbers, look after your car, look after the tires. So this could be a profitable campaign here for Kenneth Latta. There's still plenty to be sorted out in the battle behind Sebastian Vandel, though. Looks like Dion de Graaf, Trent Bennett, Ryan Nielsen and Stephen Tonkin all in a line here, and Nielsen trying to get the run on Bennett. Despite a little bit of oversteer out of the preceding corner, Trent Bennett seems to... Oh, he's going to come under pressure out of the penultimate corner. Ran a little bit deep, but there is nowhere for Ryan Nielsen to go. Bunch of cars just came into the pits there. Chastaneuf, Stone Street, Mazzaroli, Durham, Banks, and Jack Snove as well. So that's two of our top three that have come into the pits.
And that's two guys that are going, oh, we're a little bit vulnerable in terms of the undercut as well. And Bennett's gone ahead and spent, I think, potentially on pit lane entry. So he's pressed on. Just wondering, is Jamie McKnight had some sort of drama? I thought I might have had a timing issue for him.
Yeah, there is a timing issue on my end as well for McKnight, but he's just come into pit lane. It doesn't seem like there's been much of an issue there for him. He did lock up a little bit on the way into the pits, but he got it slowed down in time, so looks like our JRT screens are telling us lies.
Thomas Hin's done for the day. Obviously, issues, unfortunately, for him. Byron Phillips, William Brown. Remember the big accident for William Brown on the pit lane straight. So he was basically done from that one. Right, so lead drivers that have now done their pits. This is going to be quite critical. It's Chastaneuf in 18th. So about half the field now have done their pit stops. We just wait on the remainder of them. And what do these undercut laps look like? Dyke was pretty comfortable, so he's got room to sort of go that one extra lap and not feel like he has to cover it off. So he did have that little bit of room. And I'll tell you what, Ken Latter's actually made ground through this undercut as well. So he is only one lap worth of undercut, but he's a touch closer than he was.
Well, that's still some gain, and any gain is good. Jamie Dyke coming in from the lead of the race. We'll see if anyone follows him in here, or if he is going to be the solitary pitter on lap 10. He will not be. In comes Blake Urquhart. Kevin Norman and Dylan O'Shea continue on for a little longer. O'Shea's going to have more time to serve in the pits thanks to his penalty, but Kevin Norman moves to the lead of the race, and it looks like David Kirby has jumped into the lane as well as Dion de Graaf. Vandel, amazingly, is still out there despite his damage.
Yeah, still pressing on, because as soon as he pits, he knows that he's in trouble. All those guys are just going to go by him, and he's actually going to force that group's hand. If you're stuck in behind him and you recognize that you're potentially getting held up a bit, you just got to undercut him. You can't follow him into the pit lane because he's just going to be there. You can't really make the difference. So that is starting to play itself out, and the pack behind him has dwindled away, but the lap time's just not good in that 458 car either. He's going to block it again too on the run into turn 6. So Kevin Norman's going to assume the race lead. Here we go.
All right, under pressure from Dylan O'Shea coming into turn 11, but out through turn 12, Norman's going to hold strong. O'Shea has always been quite an aggressive driver, and if he's behind you, you know that he's going to try and go for a move. So Norman is dealing with quite a bit at the moment. He's delayed turning over to the right-hand side of the circuit there to try and keep O'Shea behind him. It's not going to be long before we see pit entry come by and see what they can do. Vandel, meanwhile, side by side with Ryan Nielsen, and Nielsen hasn't been able to get past him. So it's a real cork in the bottle scenario here for Sebastian Vandel. Nielsen gets a tap from behind from Stephen Tonkin. They are losing so much time here behind Vandel at the moment. Does anyone else come into the lane this time, though?
Oh, great overtake. Dylan O'Shea got to the inside of Kevin Norman on the way to pit lane. Actually overtook him to the cone. So he actually got this job done on pit lane entry.
Amazing. Nice job from Dylan O'Shea there.
That one absolutely needs a replay. I was just having a quick look through. Dylan O'Shea, I remember we talked about him getting a drive-through penalty all the way back on. I haven't seen it apply. There's been no black flag where he's...
Yeah, looks like he will still have to serve it. Ryan Nielsen Nielsen, meanwhile, has received a black flag. Black on entry. So it looks like one of the things that's going to define this night of racing. Oh, no!
He's off the road, too.
Hadn't he already pitted as well?
Yeah, he's already made his pit stop. So is this maybe a pit lane exit penalty, I think?
Maybe. All right, we'll endeavour to find out exactly what happened there, but that's a huge problem for Troy Stonestreet, who was practically guaranteed a podium in this race, and if you get a podium in Split 2, you can race in Split 1, so that's a huge points opportunity that's now disappeared for Troy Stonestreet.
Troy Stonestreet turned off the limiter early, so he was right up and underneath the rear bumper of James Chastanuff, and I don't know whether or not he could see the cones on the pit lane. So just watch this. You'll see Chastity come through.
Yeah. Off the jacks and away they go.
Yep. Can you see the cones? No, see, you can't see that. You can see it very, very clear.
Yeah. From his point of view, the cone was behind the pace car. Well, that's an unfortunate error for Troy Stonestreet. And that'll be the end of his campaign for a podium. At the very least, he should be able to still get to the finish and get some points down. Nielsen, meanwhile, it was a bit of a late decision to come into pit lane, and obviously a bit too late to slow down to 40 k's an hour.
Yeah, attack that pit lane entry line. So just pressing on, pushing margins. Did he need to press that hard? Debatable. Vondell's going to continue on. Have a look at Blake Fitz as well, because he cleared Vondell, 5 laps ago, and he's disappeared down the road to 12 to 11.5 seconds. So that's
pretty amazing. Just goes to show how much Vondell's pace has been harmed by that damage, and even if there's an opportunity to force other drivers' hands in terms of strategy, if I was in Vondell's position, I would have pitted ages ago to clear that damage. I would think that it's better to have a fully functional race car than to defend track position. But regardless, we'll find our way through to the second half of the race, and Jamie Dyke is the effective race leader by about 3 seconds from James Chastanuff, under no pressure at all as he comes through the back end of the circuit. He seems to have the bend nailed down.
Yeah, nice, smooth, consistent. That's what you're looking for at the moment. Just really, really accurate at the moment. Chastity's got to go out there, drive it hard, and try and run him down. There's going to be a really interesting battle as well for effective third place, because at the moment Ken Latta went with the undercut, pit at the end of lap 8. In behind him, Jordan Mazzarelli pit at the end of lap 9. So 1 lap undercut, and Mazzarelli's right there with Ken Latta. So Ken's got to maintain that pace, but we were confident in the fact that he had a reasonable long run car as well. So, but Mazzarelli cruised up. It took about 9/10 of a second out of him on that most recent lap. So Mazzarelli's lap 12 was absolutely stunning. So.
Yes, have a look at that. Very consistent gains in all 3 sectors for Jordan Mazzarelli. So maybe Latta's been pushing his tyres a little too hard. Fitzpatrick comes in, and the only cars left to pit in this race are Sebastian Vondell and Vincent Skilbeck. So leave them to go on for at least 1 more lap. Mazzarelli still gains a little on that lap, but not quite enough to really be harassing Latta at the moment.
Big win for him, though, is he's now 5 seconds clear of Jack Andrews behind him. So that's that next car that's trying to run him down, which means for Mazzarelli, it's freeing. Only keep your eyes forward. Keep your eyes on that Chevy just in front of you, or Kenneth Latta's. And that's going to be the battle for the final promotion spot in the Split 1. And then you got this little group as well. 3-4 cars in it, all running around the same pace. And Jack Andrews at the head of this crew was one of the early pitters at the end of lap 7. So his tyres going to be feeling quite secondhand from here on out, but he's got the track position. That's a big, big key.
Yeah, as we've seen from Sebastian Vandel's defense with his damaged car, this track is actually quite hard to pass on. There are some solid overtaking opportunities, but particularly around this back section, it's all long flowing corners, and it's so hard to build the momentum to even get in the position to make a pass, let alone actually make it. I've seen a couple of moves here at turn 13. It's a pretty significant braking zone, but it's still majorly difficult. Paul Young and Blake Neck, meanwhile, battle for 17th and 18th, two drivers that have had some dramas in this race thus far. But Blake Neck still up a solid amount of positions here, and I believe he is still the driver with the most positions gained in the field.
Yeah, so tracking his way through. And remember, he's had to come from the rear of the field, much the same as Dylan O'Shea has as well, but he's just maybe not necessarily got involved in as much drama. He's had to be aggressive the whole way through. So not easy making this field. Not easy. Unfortunately, maybe not qualifying as far up as he possibly could have in the pre-qual list. So Vandel will run this tank dry. I think he's got no benefit to pitting at any stage. He's just looking and hanging on for a safety car. Will be his main reasoning for staying out where he is.
Yeah, I think at this point, though, the field is so spread out that a safety car is much less likely now. So potentially that chance has passed, but just have a look at the pace difference there. Jamie Dyke, race leader on fresher tyres, and Vandel struggling to keep it on the track there and dealing with a bit less downforce on his front as well. Not to mention the aerodynamic drag from all of those exposed parts. Upwards of 2 seconds a lap being gained there by our pole sitter Jamie Dyke. But surely now this is the point where we're going to be seeing Vandel pit, because lap 15, we're right on the cusp of a full tank's worth.
Yeah, so running it deep into the race, he's sort of coming to the back end, you're right, of the length that he can possibly go on fuel. So but now, this is one of the... I really like this racetrack here, Reese, for a couple of reasons. Number one is challenging technical corners. But number two, it's also a racetrack where you just can't show up on the scene and get the pass done. But there is overtaking ability in it. The overtaking ability comes in, you've got to set them up. This is one of those circuits you can block at. And sometimes it'll be the weakest thing to actually block, because you'll cover off... you might cover a gap that's... You're covering free air, basically. And then that just basically turns the next corner into a vulnerable spot. So being smart about when you block, how you block, and how much you cover it. Don't cover it maybe necessarily all the way. Look for disincentivization, but also opens up the opportunity for maybe a really late dive down the inside if he hasn't fully covered me off. You know, it's a thinking driver's track. You've got to get out here and think about it. And ultimately, I want to say Supercars and Porsche Cup are probably a better format for racing here than probably GT ever will be.
Yeah, indeed. It's tracks like this that really benefit those lower downforce categories, right? You know, mechanical grip, not as much reliance on aero, being able to really play with the car through the corner really benefits the racing at tracks with long flowing corners like this. Though the Bend, as we mentioned at the top of the show, does have an FIA Grade 2 license, so conceptually it could host a round of the World Endurance Championship.
Let's pray it does. I mean, who wouldn't go for a trip down to South Australia to go see this? I know there was a lot of debate. I really desperately wanted to get down to South Australia with some stuff last year. It didn't necessarily happen, but yeah, that'd be such a cool swing to do it. You'd just love to see it as well, from if Supercars plan this out and South Australia, Transport for South Australia plan this out, have a race here one weekend, the following weekend go to Adelaide. You know, that would be such a huge transport and tourism opportunity to summon people down to Adelaide for a 2-week holiday would be such a big thing, a big opportunity. And I think really a missed opportunity, I've got to say.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it would be it's certainly a goal for me to get over east again, and as Vandel finally comes into the pits, potentially see some racing at the Bend and at the Adelaide Street Circuit. Well, Vandel, unfortunately, also has gotten a black flag. speeding on the way into the pits. Yeah, I think, this is, of course, the first time that a lot of these drivers will be racing the bend competitively in a league environment. So they'll be taking a lot of lessons from this. I think the big lesson is you really got to nail that braking point.
Yeah, he's majorly over it, wasn't he? And it's a slow pit lane entry. You're right, 40Ks at the moment. There's a big dive going on at turn 1 at the moment. Blake Neck's trying to get down inside of Paul Young, and they're actually going to rub panels and get rotated.
No. Oh, there goes Blake Neck, and he might be on the blower to race control from that one. As looks like William Brown, I think, has been sitting in the pits with the engine running for quite some time, and I think the engine's finally given out. But Blake Neck, not the first time he's seen trouble in this race. Still holds on to the 18th position there, and I don't know if Paul Young necessarily did anything wrong there. Neck was very deep into turn 1, and he sort of tipped Young into a slide that then sort of resulted in ping pong contact. It's definitely worth taking another look at. Let's see it now. Big dive from Blake Neck, and he did make the apex, but he was going to wash wide no matter what he did, and that wasn't necessarily a return serve from Young. He just got tapped.
So there's the contact there. He's okay with it, and then he picks up the throttle. That's 50-50. I can't necessarily tell from those camera shots whether or not it was the throttle up or it was the unsettling from the contact, and I think it's a little bit of driver error meets that contact. So I'd say that one's probably not necessarily going to be too much. Yeah. Unfortunately, I reckon that one's just going to be a play on.
Yeah, it might just be. Blake Neck attempted the pass and it did not work out for him.
Yeah.
We're into the final few laps of the race then. 4 laps to go for our cars on the lead lap, and the battle between Ladder and Mazzaroli for the last spot on the provisional podium is heating up more and more lap after lap. Mazzaroli took 0.8 of a second out of Ladder on the last lap. I think the fishy 269 might have had an issue.
Yep, might have missed an apex at some point in the lap as well. And this is one of the fastest cars on the racetrack at the moment from Mazzaroli's perspective. Have a look at how close he gets down through this section, and then how wide do you get? So Mazzaroli doesn't quite get as far back to the right before the entry for this little chicane, and then out the other side. Ladder doesn't all hug the curb on the middle and the way out. So a couple of different styles of going after those corners. It was this next corner last time by that Ken Ladder made a big mistake at. Again, wide, misses the apex, and have a look at Mazzaroli, how much tighter he is to that apex. So Ladder's feeling the heat.
Yeah, so important to hit the apex at turn 13. It can basically define your whole lap, and then trying to get this section right is just as hard. Ladder does gain a little bit back that time by, but clearly Mazzaroli has the advantage. Front tires are looking a little cleaner. You did mention Ladder wasn't staying as tight through turn 12. Well, I think we might be seeing that in action. He's working the fronts a bit too hard, inducing understeer, and making the car push through those very crucial turns.
He's only missing the braking zone by maybe a meter, if that. He's not missing it by very much, but that's the end result. And then once you get into a one-turn hot, a little bit of heat, a little bit of extra wear through the fronts. Then you do it again the next lap. It's doing the same thing. And the tyres around here, they just take a beating. You mentioned back at the top of the show, long corners that double back on them. You're really got to have your front styled in around here because you're going to be leaning on them all night long as well. Traction circuit as well. So, you can't just sit there and go, okay, we've got to prep the car for front. We're going to prep the car for rotation. We're going to look after our front tyres. There's so many slow corners as well. You're going to drive the car off. So it's not just as easy as go, yep, it's a front end circuit. No, it's not nowhere near like this. Is a really, really challenging circuit to get the balance right.
Yeah, it's a track of compromise is the bend, and looks like the likes of Jamie Dyke and Shane Chastaneuf are the ones who have compromised the best. Dylan O'Shea, after having served his penalty, presumably finds himself in P24 right in the midst of this huge pack. At the head of it is Dion de Graaf, one of the cars involved in the incident that got Dylan O'Shea that penalty. Here comes Rob Chrisdale. My God, he has missed the breaking point by a country mile and shuffles de Graaf wide. The phase 4 car comes through. Oh my God, no, not the phase 4. It was Skillbeck that came through there. And amazingly, it all sorts out in the end with no one going for a heavy spin, but that was scary.
Yeah, it was. Not over yet as well. It's going to carry on. So for now, hold your breath. Try and line the car up. David Kirby's going to try and run away from this now whilst he's got the opportunity, and Skillbeck's now the car that'll get the best opportunity. And for Skillbeck, worthwhile thinking. He came to pit lane much later than these guys at the end of lap 14. So there is a tyre delta here, and now Dylan O'Shea's back on this scene as well. Something happened to Dan Hall off screen. They're going to be 3 wide as they enter. By the way, huge moment. 3 wide down into turn 14. Didn't work out.
Okay, so for Daniel Hall, that was contact with one of the, is that a Banter Alliance car there? Yes, it is. So that was Andrew Ritchie, who unfortunately was involved in that contact. And meanwhile, here's that 3 wide moment you were talking about, Scott.
Yeah, Dylan O'Shea's posturing at it. Skillbeck's right up and in behind the lead car in this little pack as well, and then they both, all of them sort of want to cover it. Remember how I said you can sort of try and fight on the inside? That wasn't a door opening, but there was no door open out of any of them either. But that's Dion de Graaf tagged twice in a lap.
Yeah, and Dylan O'Shea was around at that point as well, probably getting some flashbacks to lap 1 there as, oh dear, de Graaf has gone super wide through turn 1, big oversteer moment. And he'll lose touch for the moment with Stephen Tonkin and Peter Pavlovich. I think he was right at the front of this pack not a lap ago. How things can change. Yeah,
unfortunately for him. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of decision making in that one. Obviously, the Rob Chrisdale one, Chrisdale's missed the braking marker a little bit. He's trying to hang on and clamber on and hang on to positions, but again, it comes a time when you go, how hard do I need to fight this one? Is it better off maybe just letting this one go? So I think that's the issue he's got there.
Yeah, well, Dion will try his best to get to the end here with only a couple of laps remaining. Jamie Dyke and James Chastaneuf have started the final lap of the race, and they are under no pressure at all there in the top 2 positions. Jamie Dyke starting from pole position and not looking back. It's been a stellar drive from the Fishy 080 so far. Chastaneuf in the 427, and years previous, he's been no stranger to racing in Split 2 and finding himself in Split 1 through some stellar driving. He'll be under very little pressure in second place. Kenneth Latter, meanwhile, seems to have put some space between himself and Jordan Mazzaroli for the podium.
Yeah, so it's nearly like, Ken Latter can get 1 lap together and then the tyres just go off again. On a lap, he just misses a couple of apexes. For some reason, they come back in at the end of the lap, fires himself all back up again, settles back into the pace, and then all of a sudden, Mazzaroli just has a blinder. So it's really back and forth. But last lap, they've done well enough to get here. Now it's just hang on to it for the back end of the lap. No mistakes at the end of this one.
Blake Fitz and Jack Pickett trading spots for 11th place. And it looks like that's going to be one of the final changes for position we see in this Split 2 race. Jamie McKnight still holding off as well. Good amount of racing to be had here on the final lap here. Skillbeck trying to make something good out of what's been a very tough race for him, but up the front, there's only 1 corner to go for Jamie Dyke. And this will be one of the most well-earned victories I've ever seen here. He barely seemed like he was under any pressure all race long. Split 2 goes to Jamie Dyke, and he'll get a golden ticket into Split 1. So will James Chastaneuf, 2nd place for the Banner Alliance 427, and Kenneth Latter gets in as well in car 269. Mazzaroli, a huge amount of pressure being put on there as the 2 Project C2 cars of Durham and Nov there round out your top 8. Nice little photo opportunity for the team there.
Yeah, phenomenal to have both of those guys reasonably placed towards the back end of this one. I'll be very, very happy with the results as well. McKnight and Skillbeck are going to go at it on the final lap. One more corner left to run as well, as they'll come out of this one, and Skillbeck's just trying to make sure he's looking backwards, not forwards. That was never an overtaking opportunity. But again, last corner, have a dive. May as well.
Yeah, a little bit of side-by-side going on there. Was that Crisdale that ultimately lost out a bit there in the battle with Bradley Sachs and Paul Young? I'm not sure what went on there. We'll Dan Hall, unfortunately, losing a spot on the final run to the line. Well, it looks like that's going to be the race done. Did he run out of fuel? It looks like he might have. Andrew Ritchie getting a front row seat to that as all of the guts just drop out of the ERT Mustang there. It's got to hurt for Dan Hall.
Yep, frustrating. Missed out on having enough fuel to get to the end by, a litre, less than a litre. Did reasonable to get that deep into the season. Into the session. Yeah, strong results at the front. And a little bit of an understanding. I think the big thing that we take away from that one, Reese, is lap 1 is critical to this place.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Jamie Dyke led out of turn 1 and at the end of lap 1, and he wins by nearly 6 seconds over James Chastaneuf. Kenneth Latter rounds out your podium with Mazzaroli not too far behind. Andrews, Banks, Durham, Nov, Lamprey, and Norman will round out your top 10.
Outside the 10, though, get back to Jack Pickett. And you'll be happy with that one from Blake Fitz, Alan Dawson, Blake Urquhart will tumble down the list after trouble in that one. Paul Young, Blake Neck, Harry Dodds was on the climb through the field in that one. Jaden Green, David Kirby, and Dylan O'Shea after penalties. Had a few bits and pieces of contact for him, 20th spot.
Jamie McKnight finishes in 21st ahead of Vincent Skillbeck. Rob Crisdale finishes just a couple of tenths ahead of Bradley Sachs, and then Peter Pavlovich another 2 tenths back. Stephen Tonkin and Dion de Graaf round out your top 27 positions. Andrew Ritchie just grabbing 28th spot off Daniel Hall on the run out of the final corner as Hall ran out of fuel. Ryan Nielsen had a really rough time out there. Rounds out your top 30. Last car to finish on the lead lap was Trent Bennett. Sebastian Vandel carried on with damage for a big portion of that race. He finishes a lap down with Troy Stonestreet retiring from the race after getting his penalty for speeding on pit exit. Real shame for Troy. Could have been a guaranteed podium for him. Thomas Hens, Byron Phillips, and William Brown also victims of the bend in its V8 SCOPS debut. And we can go very briefly to Jamie Dyke, our winner, for a brief chat. Mr. Dyke, very nice drive indeed. Seems like you had the car sorted out around here. The conditions seem to suit you perfectly.
Yeah, thanks, Reese. Setup felt good. Made a slight setup change in the practice right before the race, and turned out to go the right way. So, pretty happy with that.
Scott and I were talking through the race about what's required in a setup around the bend, and we came to the conclusion it was a real compromise racetrack. Like, you want a car that turns in well, but you also want a car that's good on traction out of the corners. Are you thinking the same?
Yeah, definitely. Made a few setup changes for the pre-qual setup to give it a lot of nose, which helped, but then I had to made a couple changes to savour the rear for the longer stints, which I'll tinker around with it a bit more, but it feels pretty good.
Well, you're going to have an opportunity to test out that long run pace. You've gotten the golden ticket into Split 1, so we'll be seeing you again later this evening. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Kenny and Kirby for doing this doing the race with me and showing up, and obviously all the teammates of Fishy Motorsports back home.
Fantastic stuff, Jamie. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations on the win.
Thanks, mate. Have a good call, guys.
Well, Jamie Dyke will celebrate his victory and immediately start preparing for Split 1 action, which is going to be coming up very shortly here on SimSpeed TV. We're going to be stepping aside while the servers sort out for that one, but don't go away. The night is far from over. The Bend making its V8SCOPS debut, and it's already making headlines. See you again shortly.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You're watching SimSpeed TV, round 8 of V8SCOPS for 2025 here at The Bend. Well, Split 2 showed us right away what this track can bring to us in this season and seasons to come. And now we're getting ready for Split 1. We said goodbye to Scott Rankin over the break. I'm Reese Gardner, and David Haynes is joining me for Split 1, with Dan Yeaman still behind the scenes, broadcasting live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. About to get into qualifying for Split 1, David. This is where the heavy hitters come out. And one thing's for sure, this track is not only hard to race at, it's hard to put a lap down as well. Very challenging layout.
So in the great state of South Australia, we look at the track map once again. Tailem Bend, outside of Adelaide. They'll tell you it's a long drive. I'll tell you it's really not that far out of Adelaide. Come on, guys. But yeah, brand new facility, brand new layout. It's all up to the minute stuff. The total combined circuit is massive, but I think the best racing does happen on this layout, the international layout with 18 corners. You get that long front straight. You've got a pretty fast final corner as well, but then that sort of switchback 3, 4, and 5 to passes happening at 6, trying to stay close around the backside of the racetrack over some crests and hills, multi-apex corners, and then 14 and 17 you can also maybe try to make an overtake. 1, 2, 3, it kind of gives me this sort of flipped Istanbul Park or Brazil Sao Paulo kind of thing going on, the way that you can get down the inside, but the other driver can still hold their own and you can battle pretty well through turns 1, 2, and 3. I think, sometimes a brand new track comes out and it's too polished. Maybe it lacks the character that some older tracks had, but I think this, for a brand new track opened in 2019, it's got a bit of character, it's got good raceability. It's not bad for this type of stuff.
Absolutely. As I mentioned at the top of the show, the most recently built FIA Grade 2 venue in Australia, joining Sydney Motorsport Park and the Gold Coast Street Circuit. And looking forward to seeing where it'll go in the future. Already hosted Asian Le Mans series and the like in real life. Could be something else on the horizon too. Well, this is what's on the cards 20 minutes of qualifying starting in about 30 seconds time. There is no group qualifying for this round. Everyone's out on track at the same time, and we are going to have some overtime at the end to allow people to finish their laps when they start them. 41 laps on the cards for the race, just over 200 kilometers with a 2-hour time limit, 90% fuel tank restriction. So you won't necessarily have to pit for fuel 100% like you would in Split 2, but you'll have to visit the pits twice during this race. And considering how we saw the pace fall off in Split 2, tyres obviously don't deal with this track very well. They're going to need tyres at both of those stops, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we'll also see how the weather plays into that, but you can get your 4-tyre change done in underneath 10 seconds on these cars. So if you're taking any amount of fuel, taking 4 tyres is a pretty easy thing to do on a car without any of the, assists or massive downforce that's going to help you look after those tyres.
Well, from the end of lap 2 to the end of lap 40 is the window. You're going to need about 40 to 50 litres of fuel in Split 1 here. That covers the tyres over 2 stops. But we'll get to that strategy talk when we get to racing. Now it's time to qualify. See who gets pole position, sets the fastest time around the challenging international layout of Shell V-Power Motorsport Park at the Bend. Leading the charge out of pit lane is the Mustang of Jake Maloney from Trans-Tasman Racing, followed by Rehan Leonage and Brady Baldwin from Synergy Sim Racing. And I think the amount of long flowing corners here, you'll want that space to really set your best time here up the back of the circuit. But the front straight is quite long, so slipstream could be a significant factor here.
Yeah, I think it could, because you're fast out of the final corner as well, and then you just carry so much speed on the super long front straight. So maybe you'll see a little bit of a car park form in the final sector just as everyone gets ready to get going. Maybe you leave that sort of more technical, more desperate stuff for a bit later in the session. We've seen that going for a banker early is a good thing to do in a qualifying session like this. That's that weather. That's a bit of a breeze.
Certainly is. And the track's only gone up a few degrees from Split 2, so the conditions should be pretty similar. It should be a nice, quick adaptation for the 3 drivers that came through from Split 2. But Jake Maloney coming around to start his first hot lap of the session. Let's ride on board with the Trans-Tasman number 29 across the start-finish line to begin the lap. And then a small rise at pit exit on your way up to turn 1. Try and pick your brake marker. Run over the curb to widen the entry into the first turn, and then carry as much speed as you can through here, but not too much, because you got to slow down right there again for turn 3. Hook up the apex, get the car turned mid-corner. Rotation essential in the hairpins at this circuit. Then up to the left-hander at turn 5. Super high-speed corner, flat on the way through, but not quite flat on the throttle. And then down to turn 6, hard braking, turning in early, and again rotating the car right in the middle of the corner. Straighten it up as soon as you can for the best traction through turns 7, 8, 9, and 10. Series of descending left-handers here. Just balance the throttle, lift off, then a dab of the brakes here, up across the top of the hill. Swing it round to widen the entry for turn 11, and down to turn 12. Then you need to really hook up the apex there and be careful not to run too wide on the exit. Then a short straight to turn 13 as things start to go up in elevation again. Hook up the apex there. Try not to hit the anti-cut curb on the inside. You'll get sent wide. And then hard again at the 50 marker for this series of left-handers. Lift, maybe a dab of the brakes to get the weight back on the fronts, and then traction on the way out. Careful not to run too far over that curb on the right. You will spin up the tyres if you do. And then down to the slowest corner of the track, the penultimate turn. Bounce off that curb, straight line the exit as best you can, and then carry as much speed as possible through the final corner. Use the curb and the little bit of green painted concrete at the exit to ease things up. First lap down for Jake Maloney. A 151.9 is our first benchmark time of the session.
Man, iRacing need to rescan Bathurst. Even, out here where there's not a whole lot to look at, it looks great with the way they do the modern stuff. Looks fantastic. Joshua Anderson will go to the top of the board, just pipping Maloney, and it's all changed as Brady Myers slots in between. Still thinking we're a little bit in banker lap territory early goings here, and they might have a little more to attack. Myers are close between that top three.
Yeah, for sure. Only 0.003 of a second between himself and Josh Anderson, as popping into fourth place is a driver who's making his first V8SCOPS start here, Sean Campbell. Now, if you're aware of the GTP racing scene, you probably know who Sean Campbell is. Very quick, very skilled driver, and there's not many faster than him in a prototype machine, but he's jumped into the V8 for this one, and he ended up topping pre-qualifying. So he has definitely come to fight here in the Orbit Drop Bear Camaro. Let's see what the American can do.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a new track to everyone. Obviously, it's new to the season. So I think there's lots of corners and characteristics here that are reminiscent of other tracks that everyone knows well and has practiced on iRacing and that we've seen in V8SCOPS before. But there'll still be some element of new, and of course it's got all of the latest stuff going on. I'm just noticing the 3D curbs, especially if you get a slow-mo of sort of the tires riding over those curbs, you see how they interact with the car.
Yep. FIA standard sawtooth curbing here at the bend, and we got a couple of double curbs here as well at the exits of turn 13 and exit of the final corner as well. There it is right there. You see very clearly the 3D shape of those curbs. Can be difficult to keep traction as there's a bit of confusion between the Trans-Tasman cars on the way into pit lane. Everyone's done with their first runs, and pit lane looks like a school zone on a Friday afternoon. It is a 40k an hour speed limit in that pit lane.
Yeah, I think the pit delta is pretty significant here because you accelerate out of the final corner and then need to slow down, and then you exit the pit lane at 40 alongside people that'll be doing to 250, and you have to accelerate for quite a length towards turn 1. So realistically, you're not just losing time at the 40 in the lane, but in the slow down and the pickup. And Reese, can you park there?
I don't think you can. Jordan Siberis there.
Bad downshift?
Yeah, potentially. And it looks like the end of his session. He's had to tow back to pit lane, and under V8SCOPS rules, you have to make it back to the pits under your own power and stop in the box in order to reset the car. So Jordan Siberis there, unfortunately, will have his session come to an end. Where was that? It was where one of the big anti-cut curbs are. I'm not sure exactly where that is. We'll rewind a bit and see exactly what happened to Siberis. Unfortunately, he couldn't move himself. So he was already stopped at that point. It looks like that's around the turn 12, turn 14 area, I think. Yeah, turn 15, I think, to be exact. See, there's turn 6 in the background. So Siberis, looks like the engine had already died by this point, and with the uphill to come, there was obviously no chance of making it back to the pits from there.
No, so that's deeply unfortunate and, of course, incredibly compromising in this qualifying session. You saw how quickly everyone was rushing back into the pit lane to get themselves new sets of tyres in the aim of going quicker. So I don't think he's going to be starting 24th for the race. I think he'll end up quite a bit further down than that.
152.719 is the time that we'll have to do for the 093. But laps starting once again here for just about everyone else. And question is, can anyone break that Trans-Tasman Racing stranglehold on the podium and also on the top 5 as well. 4 of the 5 cars in the top 5 are Trans-Tasman machines, split by Sean Campbell on board with Rehan Leonage, who sits just outside that top 5, needs to gain less than a tenth of a second on the current times in order to get into there, but evidently having some trouble getting it slowed down for turn 6. The curbs here are quite thin, has to be said.
Yeah, variety, a couple different ones. You're not seeing a whole lot of, green painted concrete and stuff like that. In a few places it sort of exists, but not in as great amounts as it exists at a lot of other racetracks. It's the sort of thing that, as the racetrack matures, as you have more events here, that you begin to put that sort of stuff in because, your grass is getting taken out here and there and you're looking for a more long-term solution. Same thing happened obviously out at Phillip Island. They've got a lot more extra verge than they began with.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this track evolves over time in the real world, and if and when iRacing come back to Australia in years to come, maybe we'll get a new version of it, but yet to be seen. Far off in the future for the moment. Still have Adelaide to come, as that's a mistake there for the Mustang ahead of Rehan Leonage, and he's going to abandon that lap, evidently not quite up to his standards there. So he's going to have another opportunity to get that time down. Ryan Jones, friend of SimSpeed, improves in a big way from 27th up to 14th, down to a 52.3. Very impressive. Josh Horton breaks into the top 10 for Vermilion Esports, 152.2. And we wait to see Brady Baldwin here gets himself into the top 30, 26th place. Emily Jones improves and goes 4th fastest as Kurt Stenberg joins his Trans-Tasman compatriots in the top 10. 10th place now as Zach Rattray White's just put in a big improvement to go 4th, and Brady Myers has dethroned Joshua Anderson at the top of the field. New fastest lap in qualifying.
Whole heap of hot times coming in. Top 10 moving incredibly rapidly, and of course it's that next lap where they all just push a little harder, see what the track conditions are doing. Ryan Sullivan also jumps up to 11th, but would you like a tenth of a second between first and everyone?
Certainly. New provisional pole time from Sean Campbell. The series interloper has managed to get the first time in the 151.8. These gaps are so incredibly close. Yeah, you're right. We got it looks like the top 10 covered by under 0.3 of a second. This is going to be a tough round.
Well, Myers in second to Rattray White in 7th is underneath the 10th. Suddenly then Sean Campbell comes out with that time and you're going, oh gee, 0.08 of a second. What a big margin to be on top by. So it's looking really, really competitive right now in qualifying. And with this track conditions, this track surface, this length of the racetrack, we really are only seeing one flying lap, right?
Yeah, I think that's the case because, well, you weren't here for it, but in Split 2, we were noticing that in the race there was quite a significant lap time drop-off very early on in the running. So the tyres are only going to be good for one lap around here. It's a longer circuit than you think as well for how, I suppose, simple the layout looks from the air. You spend a lot of time completing a lap around this place, and plenty of the acceleration zones are curved. There's a lot of heat being put into the rear tires, a lot of heat being put into the fronts as well to slow down for those hairpins. So, yeah, it is a one and done deal, I think, in terms of your run plan. But still 6.5 minutes to go in the session, with lap times of about 2 minutes in length. From this point on, drivers will get a maximum of 2 hot laps for the end of the session, and that's if they do them back to back, which they probably won't.
Yeah, it's why you're sort of looking at some of the cars going, are they on a hot lap? But they're just pushing their in lap to get back around to the pit lane, to get their new set of tyres on, to squeeze as many, possible runs in as possible. Possibly. There goes Ren Campbell, who's on a different strategy, a little offset.
So got a few cars out there. There we go. Ren Campbell putting himself up into 22nd place with that time. Good job there. So Vermilion Esports gets another car just outside the top 20. And I think if Campbell hurries along this lap back to the pits, he will get one more run in. Remember, this is not a multi-race server that we have set up. It is a single race. And that means that, especially with open qualifying, you are able to complete a lap after the timer ends, as long as you start it before it ends. So one more opportunity for Ren Campbell to improve there, but just as much of an opportunity to improve for everyone else. See where everyone is. Basically, we've got half the track empty at any one time.
Yeah, exactly, we do. And the number is their car number, isn't it? No?
Yeah.
No. Yes, that's Brady Myers in the pit lane. I don't think he'll be able to go again.
If he exits the pits sometime in the next 2 minutes or minute, then he will be able to get back out there.
You think they're waiting?
I think they're waiting, honestly. They're going to wait for this whole group to go by so that they have the track all to themselves, I reckon.
Yeah, I suppose if you know that you're only going to have time for one more run, then you can, choose it to not be part of this traffic, to maybe go out with one of your teammates if possible. Watching Ryan Jones here, currently 17th.
Yeah, Jones trying to improve on the 152.3 that he set before. Matt Morris makes an improvement from 31st up to 25th. Now the question on everyone's mind is, can Sean Campbell maintain that provisional pole time? The Trans-Tasman cars are crazy close. I mean, I remember when the times were first set, Anderson on a provisional pole, and there was only 0.003 of a second between him and Brady Myers. Well, it's still the same gap, but the positions are swapped now as Myers improved to that 151.902. Looks like Anderson is making his way out of pit lane. Brady Myers is following him, and it looks like Madison Down is out of the lane as well. So we're gonna be seeing one final push forward from the Trans-Tasman cars. Will it be successful?
Really like the optimism in the South Australian weather that at the Marshals posts they've put up wind turbines instead of solar panels because they expect more wind than sun. Ryan Jones goes up to 15th. He had a bit of a slide on that lap as well. I think there was a little bit more time out there, but he really gave it all. Had one really exciting leap over the curbs too.
As we have some runners make their way into the lane, Baldwin and the like. Kuznetsov, first time we've seen him in a hot minute, putting himself just outside the top 10. Very nice lap indeed.
Yeah, Thomas Freeman, no lap time yet, but for Kuznetsov, he jumped up to 11th there. So they're all still finding time. While it's clear skies, I'm not seeing the track temperature pick up a whole lot. So that's positive for the remainder of this session.
Yeah, if anything, it's dropped.
Hardly any movement at all in the track temp. 1 pixel.
And that's 1 pixel down. Very interesting to see. Well, saw Sam Blacklock improve to 4th place as well. Again, another driver that has been out of the V8SCOPS race seat for a short while. And this is going to be his in-lap there. But we will wait to pick up those last few cars.
Yeah, Maloney and his teammates are trying to organise themselves I'm just keeping an eye on that. Everyone's sort of looking at how much time is left, being like, I want to get over the line with just 20 seconds left on the clock, 10 seconds left on the clock. You've got a couple of cars sort of circulating here, just waiting for the ideal time, Emily Jones included.
Yes.
Sean Campbell's done, so it's all about those other cars. You see in the background, this is a real TTR fest right there.
Yep. Jake O'Reilly comes across to start what will be his final lap. And Emily Jones, leading the Trans-Tasman train, is going to begin the final run for those cars. So 0.08 of a second in it between Sean Campbell and Brady Myers for pole position. Through the last corner comes Thomas Freeman. And it looks like there will be no time to his name. He abandons the run there. And Jake Burton up to 6th place. That's going to be the end of his run as well. 5 seconds remain in the qualifying session. And so the checkered flag will fly.
Stenberg, purple first sector. Now Brady Myers goes and takes it away. Anderson and Maloney were both going pretty quickly. So I don't think Sean Campbell can think himself safe in that pole position. We've waited till the opportune moment. That other gaggle of cars.
End of the run for the likes of Russell Pepperell and company. Rain Campbell going to end his session here as well. He commits to the end of the lap. It's going to be a mild improvement there for Rain Campbell. Puts himself up ahead of Ryan Mueller. Ryan Leonage improves to 12th on his final time. And now we wait to see what the Trans-Tasman group does. Emily Jones leading the way. And Stenberg, as you mentioned, is looking mighty quick. Kurt is currently 14th and looking for those improvements. Jacob O'Reilly improves by 0.03 of a second. Doesn't grant him any extra positions. William Sapstead ends his run. Emily Jones not happy with that final lap. She's coming back in, but Jake Maloney and Kurt Stenberg will come to the line here. What kind of improvements can we expect? Stenberg goes to 8th. And Madison down, going to 2nd spot. Brings the gap for pole down to 0.02 of a second. Well done to those guys. Madison will be very happy with that. He's gotten himself a front row start.
Yeah, sequence of purple sectors on that final lap from Down and Myers. Going to 2nd and 3rd, push Josh Anderson down to 4th, who I think, his final lap didn't pull off. There was a few drivers that just pulled into pit lane as they were too far down when they came out of the final corner. Once you come out of the final corner, you know if your lap time's going to be an improvement or not, because it's flat out from there past the pit entry to the timing line.
For sure. Well, as everyone brings their cars into the lane here, a couple of decisions from race control to communicate. We have pit lane starts for impeding for Kenneth Latter and Daniel McCrohan. So they would have been starting 25th for Latter and 34th for McCrohan, but they'll both be starting from the pit lane. Kenneth Latter impeded Rain Campbell and McCrohan impeded Jake O'Reilly. So one more little fold to the action here, as that's the end of overtime. And we'll be able to switch on through to the race session. 41 laps on the cards here. A single race for round 8 of V8SCOPS for 2025. The Trans-Tasman juggernaut has been broken by a guest appearance from Sean Campbell, who is going to start on pole position in the Orbit Drop Bear number 26 Camaro. He will be joined on the front row by multiple series champion Madison Down. Brady Myers and Joshua Anderson are your second row, with Sam Blacklock putting the privateer entry in the top 5, starting alongside Jake Maloney. Jake Burton has got Zach Rattray White for company on the 5th row, with Kurt Stenberg and Emily Jones bookending that top 10 for Trans-Tasman Racing.
Corey McFarlane's going to start out of 11th, Rick Kuznetsov in 12th, Rayhan Leonage 13th, Ryan O'Sullivan 14th on the grid, Joshua Horton in 15th, as Ryan Jones in 16th, Jordan Ross in 17th, William Sapstead 18th place after qualifying, and Tyson Broad 19th, and 20th is Ocean Colangelo.
Good job there from Ocean with Jacob O'Reilly and Rain Campbell. First row outside the top 20, Ryan Mueller 23rd alongside Russell Pepperell for KSR Speed Nation. 25th place, Kenneth Latter, but we won't be seeing that grid spot occupied. He's got a pit lane start. Matthew Morris, sole car on row 13, with Billy Mole and Jordan Siberis 27th and 28th. Not too bad for Siberis considering that his qualifying session ended early. Brady Baldwin and Brett Loxton round out your top 30. Then we have James Chastaneuf from Split 2. Angus Lawford alongside. Jamie Dyke, winner of Split 1, will join them with Daniel McCrowan also taking a pit lane start. Thomas Freeman with no time to his name, starting 35th and last on the grid. Now, the standing start is always a crucial aspect of these cars, the series they take part in. It's a long run to turn 1, but you have to think all the way ahead to 41 laps in the future. 90% fuel tank restriction makes it 2 compulsory pit stops here. And with the amount of fuel you have to take, around 40 to 50 litres, all of that is going to be covered by tyre changes, and they're going to need the tyres to make their cars last around here. A smooth flowing circuit, but surprisingly brutal on the rubber. They have until the end of lap 40 to complete those 2 stops, but you can't do it in the first 2 laps of the race or first 2 laps after a safety car if the safety car happens on the first lap, and there is certainly a non-zero chance of that happening. We saw plenty of chaos on the opening lap in Split 2. And I think Split 1's going to see a fair share of action as well, especially in the midfield. But all the cars have taken their spots on the grid, and Sean Campbell sees an empty racetrack ahead of him on the way down to turn 1. But so many red and white Trans-Tasman cars looking to dethrone him from that top spot. Round 8 of V8 SCOPS. It is go. And it looks like a smooth getaway from Campbell, but it's a slightly faster getaway from Madison Down and Brady Myers. They may draw alongside him into turn 1. See a car taken to the grass in the background. I think that was McFarlane. Campbell defends into turn 1, but trying to hold strong around the outside is Brady Myers. He gets bumped out of the way as sweeping through is Sam Blacklock into second place. A brilliant start from the 215 Mustang. Campbell nails the exit of turn 3, though. We have a spin in the mid-pack.
Well, a big hip and shoulder as well for that race lead there. Campbell getting his elbows out off the road.
It's Pepperell. Russell Pepperell losing his front end. And he will still be ahead of Latter and McCrowan, who have been released from the pits. Ryan Mueller also down quite a fair way. And it looks like Ocean Colangelo didn't have a great first part of the lap either. So some dramas in the field, but the majority of them making their way through the first half of the lap cleanly. The gap up the front is so close. Colangelo fighting hard here and looking to Matt Morris and Angus Lawford battling ahead of her. Sean Campbell still leads from Sam Blacklock, and it looks like that privateer Mustang is mega quick here on the fresh tyres.
Well, he got a good start. I think Myers and Down kind of tripped each other over a little bit. Both of them wanted to go around the outside of Sean Campbell, who wasn't going to let that happen. Blacklock stepped through the gap in the right place to gain 3 spots so far on this opening lap, and it was Madison Down who got a little bit of door fed to him and then has dropped a couple of spots on this opening lap.
Side by side, William Sapstead gets Joshua Horton alongside him, and Horton will have the inside for the last 2 corners of the lap. Sapstead gives that one up. He knows that it's a long race to come, so no need to fight it too hard. But Horton immediately going defensive again, breaking the slipstream. It's actually a good run out of the final corner from Sapstead. It will be protected by Horton. Hard braking into the first turn. Can Sapstead get him round the outside? Certainly possible. Room is given between the 2 Camaros, and Sapstead goes straight back through.
Yeah, really nice work. Love that sequence of 1, 2, and 3 where you can do that. Sapstead had enough grip to go around the outside and get ahead. Now it's a big conflagration here. Ryan Jones has dropped a couple of spots so far in this one. So is Jordan Ross just behind him. Brady Baldwin moving through big spots. Rain Campbell moving ahead of them. Jones looking to strike back. This is a great overtaking opportunity here. Big braking zone again.
Look at the way they all compress as that's off there for,
Severus.
I think that's Severus. Yeah, Jordan Severus has gone off. He rejoins alongside Matt Morris, but big trouble there for the man who had to DNF from qualifying when his engine popped. Hopefully that Mustang's engine has been repaired to a point it can make it to the end here. Rattray White, meanwhile, down 1 spot from where he started. Same for Jake Burton ahead, but he's got a big pack behind him, headed up by Rayan Leonage and Corey McFarlane. As McFarlane goes for the move at turn 13, Leonage sees him coming, but is there room given on the exit? Only just. And this has turned into quite the kerfuffle. 3 wide just about, as Rick Kuznetsov wants to get his nose into.
With cold air temperatures, I'm sure the Mustang motors are going to be doing fine, but Rick Kuznetsov, he wanted part of that, but just realised that coming late to the party, 3 wide down the inside wasn't going to work. Now he's looking down the inside here. He's got good braking performance when he does get down the inside.
Oh, and Ryan O'Sullivan getting his nose in it as well in the ERT Camaro there. Stenberg going to cut back out of the final corner, and all of this is really benefiting William Sapstead there in the blue and yellow machine. He's having a fun time looking at all of this going on ahead of him. Stenberg going to try and get back past O'Sullivan here at turn 1, but as has been proven, you can hold the outside into turn 1, but not if you get shuffled out of the way like that. And Sapstead takes advantage, gets up the inside of Stenberg at turn 3. O'Sullivan is going to have a go at all of this as well. Josh Horton alongside him. Sapstead up to 13th now, up 5 places. A solid drive so far.
Oh, I love the way he's doing it through 1 and 2, Sapstead. He saw the other guys in front of him bang doors, and then he just popped to the inside of turn 3, went through for 2 more free spots. And there's so much opportunity to gain some spots here, the way that they're racing just behind him.
Yeah, this is really tight. Brady Baldwin passing Ryan Jones there. Yeah, absolutely. Baldwin's up 12 places at the moment. A brilliant run there from the 007 Synergy Camaro. And let's see if he can maintain that pace here. He's obviously working the tyres quite hard in the opening laps to get all of those moves done. Potentially, we'll be going for one of the first pit stops of the race.
There's so many great battle packs. They're all staying close, but they are able to race each other. They're able to fight each other. It's not line of stern. It's side-by-side racing in places, but there's not a whole lot of field spread happening. Campbell only half a second clear, leading a pack of cars. Zach Rattray White leading a group in 9th. William Sapstead's gotten to the head of this group that goes all the way down to 28th spot. And Brady Baldwin is climbing the rungs like a ladder.
Absolutely. He is clawing his way up through the field. William Sapstead then losing touch with Kuznetsov and Leonage up ahead of him. Very wide out of the final corner there for Joshua Horton. Thank goodness for pit entry being there, but you've got to be careful of that wall that comes up on your left-hand side. Well, everyone's still quite close together at the moment. Ryan Mueller is going to have a go here into turn 1. Gets ahead of Angus Lawford. Down 4 for Mueller, up 4 for Lawford. And Brett Loxton and James Chastanerve having a fun time too, battling for 23rd place. Chastanerve making the move up from split 2, finishing 2nd in that race earlier tonight. Gets the move done, or does he? Loxton very deep into turn 6, but the rotation is there for him as it's 3 wide on the exit of the corner. Tyson Broad finds his way through. This is
a whole lot of door to Ross in turn 6. Both of them were so wide, bombing down the inside. Broad just took Ross way wide of the apex on his way through.
We'll get another look at that as Broad saw the lane open there.
Ross locks up and goes wide first.
Yeah, but Broad, I think, went a bit deep himself, and there is the machine of Jacob O'Reilly trying to get into it as well. Man, everywhere you look, it's a huge battle. all the way through this field. O'Reilly not able to get past the two of them. That's a big snap from Jordan Ross. That's something that I was worried would happen at some point tonight. It's so hard to actually get the power down out of that corner, and it's right up the final part of the circuit too. Both of them go wide, and that is positions up for Chastaneuf, Loxton, and Billy Mole. Potentially, Jordan Sabiris is going to get up in there as well. He gets past Ross. Maybe Ryan Mueller and Angus Lawford can get in on this as well.
Ross all over the place, and then he tries to defend the position and he locks up and he loses more positions, and if he'd just given up one spot he could have stabilised it, but then he'll just keep losing them. He's under so much pressure and clearly struggling in the braking zones.
The problem is, in a series like V8 Scops, you blend out of the throttle to lose one position and suddenly everyone smells blood and they're right on you. That's probably what Ross was worrying about, but regardless, he manages to get it under control again. Rattray White chasing Corey McFarlane in the battle for
McFarlane's just got one.
P9.
After lap one off the race start, McFarlane's mowing. He's up 2 positions, so he's up into 9th and looking super quick. That's the curb that some of them really hop a little bit of, and you see McFarlane get plenty of it, but then the car lands and it's stable through the next sequence.
Yeah, solid drive from McFarlane so far.
Turn 10 curb that they're all leaping. Looks like the curb getting the most contact.
For sure. You need to hop it a little bit. It's one of those corners where you can really be aggressive with the curb and stay stable. That's a little bit wide there for Jake Burton as Emily Jones wants to get back past, but no dice for the time being. The Trans-Tasman cars all in the top 10 apart from Stenberg, and they are locking down these positions at the moment. Field spacing out a little bit up the front. Sean Campbell still leads the way with Sam Blacklock in second, and we're already seeing the lap times fall, or rather go up, I should say. We're only 6 laps in and we're running about a second slower than we did at the start.
Yeah, dropping away, if you will, as a comparison from Campbell 53.2, 53.3, 53.7, but still extending over the group behind. So Blacklock's not getting much closer, but still, close enough. And then Myers, Anderson down, might be beginning to think long-term strategy. Loney at 6, a 53.8, a 54.4 for Emily Jones.
Yeah, and I think the Jake Burton got past her on the last lap, so that might be the reason that Jones's lap time fell there. Campbell starting to draw out the gap there as trade for 21st. Loxton versus Chastaneuf. And Loxton will be ahead at the crucial point there through turn 9. Not much use of the anti-cut curb there at 10, but through 11 and 12, you got to be careful not to go too deep, and it looks like Loxton did go slightly too deep there. He had to give up some pace at the apex of turn 12. Chastaneuf not able to take advantage on the exit, though.
Yeah, you've got to use 11 to set up the longer turn 12. Leads onto a medium sort of length of straight. Then you're into this segment here. 15 and 16 kind of reminds me of the Red Bull Ring. You've got this left-hander and then it just straightens out for long enough before another descending left-hander that goes right on the exit. It's like a really tight mid-sector from the Red Bull Ring.
Yes, with quite a bit more elevation change as well, which subtly changes the way you attack. Plenty of banking through those corners as well, which allows you to carry a great deal of speed. Speaking of speed, start-finish straight. Kurt Stenberg defending from Ryan O'Sullivan. Battle for 14th place on your screen. Top speed just touching 260 k's an hour. That's way too deep for O'Sullivan. He's going to go off the circuit there. Rejoins. Ends up not losing out in terms of position, but man, he would have cooked the tyres with that one.
Yeah, for sure. Got in there just way hot, ran wide, didn't make any position, lost a little bit of time, might need to be careful right now. Whoa, there's a slide.
Oh, yeah, looks like those tyres are struggling now for O'Sullivan. All it takes is one deep run and you're done.
Horton coming over the crest got the rears out, so now he drops back. Brady Baldwin all over him. Still one of our biggest movers in 17th place. Chastanov can't get enough action. Fighting with Billy Mole now.
Jacob O'Reilly alongside. Oh, O'Reilly has to take to the grass there. And in that sequence, all it takes is one wheel touching the grass and you lose out so much. But he doesn't want to lose out too much. He tries to get back past Billy Mole, but Billy is around and sent to the back of the pack. And Jake O'Reilly might have a penalty hanging over his head now.
One thing feeds into another so commonly here, doesn't it? Like that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many corners here that you've got to think of big portions of this track as a sequence. You can't really take any of these corners in isolation, can you?
Yeah, and then also the battling where one little slide puts you under pressure for the next corner. The next driver tries to railroad you. There was a little bit of Jordan Ross's battles about that. For O'Reilly. So we look on board with Corey McFarlane up into 9th position behind Emily Jones, perhaps beginning to struggle a little bit.
Oh, is that a bit deep? Jones gets shuffled wide. Slight bit of contact, but in touring car racing, I think contact like that is fair game. McFarlane through to 8th.
Going to get a return of serve into turn 6, although, you thought he was going to run a little bit deep, but actually, just coming back for a late apex, you really do want to square and straighten up the exits for these cars, so they really do favour a late apex racing line with something that's super planted, like a single-seater with some downforce on it. You're trying to keep your minimum speed up because you've got so much grip.
Jordan Siberis looking a bit embattled at the moment. Hasn't been able to advance much more beyond, say, 25th position or so. But he's having some fun out there. Involved here with Matt Morris, Thomas Freeman, and Ocean Colangelo. Bringing up the back of this pack here. And Thomas Freeman is the only one of those drivers that's actually gained positions in this race. Remember, no qualifying time to Freeman's name in the OPR Mustang. So they still hang on to the back of the main part of this field. That sole car you see on the start-finish straight is Russell Pepperell, who about 5 laps ago went in for a pit stop for damage. And considering it was 5 laps ago, I think maybe that was within the pit window. So that might be the first of his compulsory stops cleared there.
Yeah, I just started thinking about that because you're talking about the pace drop off, and with a long lap, you try to undercut it. Someone can't react particularly quickly either. So I guess I'm surprised we haven't seen more, but everyone's just biding their time on that one. What was happening here? Oh, this is what was happening. Zach Rattray-White versus Rehan Leonage. I thought, did Emily Jones lose another spot? But no, it looks like this fight for the fringe of the top 10 has Leonage putting some pressure on.
Yeah, Jones, it seems, is struggling to keep the pace up. Rattray-White and Leonage both running almost a second faster than her on the previous lap. Leonage
again, the
always looking for more.
McFarlane dive bomb cost Jones maybe a little bit.
Yeah, certainly did. Rehan Leonage is a kart racer, and it's sequences like this that are much like what you see at kart circuits. He's smooth and controlled, as he almost always is. Chasing down Rattray-White, who had this meteoric rise over the last couple of years. This is Rattray-White on the back of Jones at the start of the lap here. He attempted a move. It worked out pretty similarly to Stenberg and O'Sullivan, just a bit too deep there. And Leonage almost saw a chance to find his way back past, but not quite.
Yeah, good for Jones then to just see that one off and then, go straight back into 9th position, and it cost a little bit of time to Rattray-White, who's now got to worry about Leonage. Jones can sort of focus on holding down that 9th place until they see the pit stop window open. So only Pepperell who has gone for it. So pit stops heading towards 1/3 race distance on sort of lap 13, 14. So that could be a window to think about.
Certainly could, but Pepperell, I think, is a big outlier. 33-second stop, obviously, to repair the front end of his car. And he might have committed to running long in the second stint just to try and stay out of trouble, avoid traffic. That could be of a big benefit here. I think this circuit is proving that that trying to get the pass done in the pits is the way to go, though there are plenty of opportunities to get by on track. This is the lead for Sean Campbell. Still hasn't quite gotten away from Blacklock, Myers, Anderson and Down. It's been a 5-car procession at the front of this field. Throw Maloney in there as well to make it 6 cars. Blacklock looking a little quicker than Campbell at the moment. Obviously, when you're in the lead, you have a clear track ahead of you. You have the luxury of choosing your lines, and you can focus on looking after the tyres if you need to. But I think for the moment, Blacklock is piling the pressure on Campbell, and we're starting to see the tyres degrade a little bit for the number 26.
Yeah. What about the last lap time from Madison Down in 5th place? 53.6, quicker than everyone in front. So
Yeah.
pressing again as we head towards the pit window here. It was as far as 7, 8 tenths back. Now getting to 4 tenths back. The lap completed. And Campbell kind of responds. So swings and roundabouts here. Joshua Horton's going to be one of the first pitters that we see from inside of a competitive spot. He was running just behind Ryan Jones in 17th. And couldn't get the move done after a lap or two. Heads to pit lane. Jacob O'Reilly gets a black flag on his pit entry.
We saw that so many times in Split 2. Drivers struggling to slow it down in time for what is a very pedestrian pit speed limit at this circuit, only 40 kilometers an hour, which is consistent with most, if not all, of the tracks on the Supercars calendar in the real world. So, yeah, you got to nail that braking zone. This is how O'Reilly did it. Into the pits and on the brakes, but maybe a slight lock-up. Got on the brakes a bit too late, and black flag to his name.
Greatest of respect, it wasn't that close, was it? I think he just braked too late. It was doing like 80 k's an hour going over the line. You got to brake so early to get it down to 40, and it seems like a team strategy call, though, there going on with some of the Vermilion guys going for an early stop. It's going to cost him 40 seconds, though, to Jacob O'Reilly. He's not going to be anywhere near Joshua Horton, who's the highest running car to have made a stop now.
Yeah, the only way that he'll be able to really gain anything now is if there's a safety car, and he can play around with his strategy a bit more there. But safety cars not looking particularly likely at the moment. This is a very wide open circuit in terms of runoff, so not much of a chance of race-ending errors, apart from maybe blowing the engine and stopping in an inconvenient spot. Corey McFarlane then on the back of Jake Burton here, as Rehan Leonage is the next car from inside the top 15 to make a stop. And we'll see if he avoids the black flag. He does indeed. It's not just the entry you got to worry about, it's the exit as well, as there goes Mr. McFarlane up the inside of Burton. A great move at turn 3, up another position there. McFarlane on a solid charge at the moment, as I've just seen Blacklock run deep at turn 6, and second place is on Brady Myers, trying to get the run on him, but the inside is protected. That's just given some breathing room to Sean Campbell.
Yeah, I don't think this is over for second or third yet either. Brady Myers is smelling blood in the water here. And if Blacklock can't go with the leader, then I think Myers, Anderson and Down have all been saving just a little bit of something in their back pocket. But then if Blacklock's not going to go with the leader, then they're going to want to move through. And it just opens it up a little bit more for Sean Campbell.
Yeah, I think that's a real blessing for Campbell's race here, is his first V8 SCOPS start, to my knowledge. And one of a few international competitors that have graced us over the years. Coming up to the end of lap 12, wondering when we're going to see the call to the pits from these top drivers. Potentially with that lockup at turn 6, Blacklock might want a fresh set of rubber on that car, maybe try and undercut Campbell and have a proper go at the lead. We'll find out here. Does he commit? He commits to the lane. Blacklock's coming in, and it looks like Anderson's going to follow him.
Yeah, clean entry from both of them. A little bit of tyre smoke in the air, but nothing to worry about beyond that. So Blacklock looking to relieve the pressure, looking for an undercut on the race lead. Joshua Anderson as well.
Oh, Jake Burton on Corey McFarlane, but doesn't work out, too deep. And now Emily Jones sees the back end of Burton once again. And you've got to be super on your game on the brakes into turn 1. And I think, this being a relatively new track, the grip off the racing line probably isn't as good as it could be at other circuits. So you need to nail that braking zone for sure.
It was at Istanbul Park when it got its resurfacing, and then, the grip off the racing line was basically non-existent. Got a lot of other pit callers coming. This is where Sam Blacklock's come back out. So at this first stop, they do have the opportunity to take more or less fuel, but then they've still got to pay it back the second time around. So you see Blacklock, both of them will have changed all 4 tyres, but Blacklock will have taken a little bit more fuel than Anderson at this first stop.
Yeah, so Anderson should have a lighter car here in the short term and maybe can use that to attack, but maybe not too hard. Every time they go into turn 6 there, it's just hard-in-mouth stuff. You genuinely don't know if they're going to make it to the apex. Half the time when I've been driving around this place, I don't know if I've been able to make it to the apex until I'm there. So that just goes to show you what kind of circuit this is. Now, trying to find alternative lines through turns 11 and 12. And Anderson should be right on the attack here. He's just come off winning the previous race of the championship, or one of the previous races at the Hockenheim Ring, which was only a week ago. Jake Burton is the next car into the lane.
And here's something important. We talked about how slow the pit lane speed limit is, how long the pit lane is, how much the delta is getting down, getting back up. Everyone who's stopping gets into clean air because they drop so far behind the rest of the pack. So for Blacklock and Anderson, because the pit lane transit times, 45 seconds, I think the total delta loss might be about 50 seconds, something like that. They're behind the whole pack into clean air. They didn't need to wait for the mid-pack to make their stop before the leaders could stop into clean air.
Yeah, solid advantage to be taken there with that kind of undercut while everyone is still as close together as they are. These early stages of the race, you really set up your strategy towards the end. Next few cars to come into the lane, Chasteneuf, Lawford and Morris. Not seeing any black flags to anyone's names, so we're looking all right for pit entry and getting on the speed limiter in time. Chasteneuf comes out behind Ryan Mueller. We've had Sam Blacklock and everyone down from him, 21st to 35th, having taken their first stop so far. And the longest of those stops that hasn't been for damage looks to be Matt Morris. 22-second stop for the 966, and I don't think there was any black flag shenanigans going on. Potentially, that is filling the tank up all the way. Potentially could be going tyre only for his second stop.
Doesn't feel like it makes a whole lot of sense. Race leader Sean Campbell comes into the lane again, a clean entry there, but Myers, Down, Maloney, Emily Jones, they all continue. So that's interesting to see. At this time, we are basically just on that sort of, just past that 1/3, aren't we?
Yeah, we're pretty much right on the money there. 1/3 race distance or just past. Campbell's going to pull it into the box there as...
So is Blacklock going to undercut him is the question. How much fuel does Campbell take? He'll know how much Blacklock took. He might go for 12 seconds just to make sure he gets out ahead of Blacklock. He goes for 9.8.
Oh, he's quick. Sub 10 seconds. That's only just enough to cover the tyre change. So Campbell is intent on keeping this lead come hell or high water, and he comes out ahead of Blacklock and Anderson, who are still squabbling over second place.
That's by far and away the shortest pit stop we've seen from anyone. The ATVO overlay stat says 9.6 seconds stationary, just enough to cover a 4-tyre change. But he's got Blacklock and Anderson behind him who've taken more fuel, and they'll probably have like a 10, 11 second stop last time around. So Campbell puts himself into a position here where he has a light car. He can be so quick in this middle stint, but a safety car could sell him into a little bit of trouble, or anything that compresses the pack. If he can't run away, the fact that everyone behind him has more fuel, a shorter second stop coming, could put him into trouble. Question then becomes, what do Myers and Down do?
Yeah, I mean,
Because I think if they take 12 seconds of fuel, they're going to be undercut by Anderson and Blacklock as well. That's why Campbell kind of had to go short.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is a tough situation for Myers and Down. We're about to find out if they decide to take that opportunity, and they're not going to. Looks like Maloney is going to follow them along there. So they're going to wait a little bit longer to really show their hands here. They might end up doing the inverse, really. Take a sort of long stop now and maybe try and get an undercut with a short stop later on when it comes time to take the second stop. O'Sullivan, the only car in the pits on this lap. Thomas Freeman's going to continue on there. So that makes it everyone except the top 11 that have taken their first stop.
Just do what Van Gisbergen used to do, where you just keep good solid pace the first stint, take a long first stint, and then when you get the tyre offset, you've got this pace enough to make passes, make moves, put people under threat, make them sweat in the second part. A long stop from O'Sullivan there.
Yeah, 16.7. It's yeah, there's some interestingly long stops that I'm seeing from a few drivers. Corey McFarlane coming in on the previous lap. Nearly 25 seconds stopped in the box. Another curious number there. Jake Burton finds Rehan Leonage for company. And, well, most of that time has been gained through an undercut for Leonage and also a shorter stop. Leonage only 11 seconds in the box. Jake Burton 13.5. So Leonage will have the lighter car for now. Is it going to benefit him? Jake Burton, notoriously hard racer, and very difficult to find your way past him. Campbell and McFarlane, meanwhile, looks like a bit of racing going on between the midfield drivers. Brady Baldwin up ahead of them there, still up the most positions of, the most effective positions of anyone.
So what did McFarlane do? Put wet tyres on, and then they had to take those off and put another set of slicks on?
I mean, it's not impossible. Emily Jones, the next car to come into the lane. Is she going to follow a similar strat to Burton around a 13.7 second stop, or is she going to try and leapfrog her teammate with a Sean Campbell style sub 10 second stop is the big question. She's just come in now, up on the jacks and getting those tyres changed. Here comes our leader. Campbell is out. Emily Jones with an 11.3 second stop. That might be enough to get her ahead of Burton and Leonage as well. But not quite. It does keep her in touch, but man, that pit speed delta is brutal.
Got to put some respect on Sean Campbell now. He is flying with that light car and the new tyres, the new fastest lap of the race, putting some time between himself and Blacklock and Anderson. So the fuel taken delta is beginning to be reflected in the on-track time delta as well for Sean Campbell. He's keeping himself in this, even if we were a little bit surprised by only taking 9-point-something seconds of fuel.
Well, like you mentioned earlier, he is going to have to pay that debt back later on in the race. And that could be where the Trans-Tasman pursuers end up getting it done on him as Baldwin is under attack. Campbell and McFarlane make their way past him. Rain Campbell, to be specific. And Baldwin just slots in ahead of Ryan O'Sullivan. Seems there might have been a slight issue there for Baldwin on that lap. His previous lap was about 0.8 of a second slower than Campbell and McFarlane, so there might be a bit more to the Brady Baldwin story there. The fight continues on between them. Lapped car letting them go. That's Russell Pepperell, who's still circulating. All of the cars that started the race are still running as they come together, do the Mustangs, and Baldwin and O'Sullivan say, "Thanks, guys. We'll just grab those, please."
Yeah, not quite enough overlap for that kind of dive, that kind of move. Race control are going to look at it, but I don't think we've really had any penalties for anything yet in this race. Obviously, qualifying, so yeah, we'll see. There's been plenty of racing, plenty of wheel-to-wheel action, but most of it's been sort of fair call, play on. More runners on pit lane here.
There's Tyson Broad making his way through the lane. Zach Rattray White just pitted ahead of him and is back out on the track. Thomas Freeman is in as well. And that is going to put Rattray White still ahead of Kuznetsov. A couple of seconds behind Emily Jones and Rayhan Leonage. But he has an undercut of 1 lap on Jones and an undercut of 6 laps on Leonage. So I think Rattray White, at the very least, is going to be flying here, and Leonage might be in trouble in the next couple of laps.
Obviously, fresh out of the box, the tyres are really, really good, and then you've got that sort of 3 or 4 laps of them being super. And then after that, I don't think that they're that different to the 15 lap old tyres, at least in the kind of performance they're getting. It's like Myers and Down have stabilised a little bit. So this is what happened. We're going to take a look.
Here we go. So this is what happened to Baldwin. This is why he got behind those 2 Mustangs in the first place. This is down at turn 6. Big dive from Rain Campbell. And Baldwin gave him the room. McFarlane saw the door open as well and swept through to take it.
Yeah, and then there was a little bit of afters a couple of corners later, wasn't there? So McFarlane gets 1, and then he's looking for 2.
Yeah, so is this just straight up too deep from McFarlane? It looks like it. I mean, doubtful he was going to be able to get through the corner, even if there wasn't another car there.
Pit callers, Sapstead, Ryan Jones were just left with your top 3 that haven't stopped. Madison Down, Jake Maloney, Kurt Stenberg. Brady Myers came out behind Blacklock and Anderson. But Campbell's pulled out 4 seconds on all of them. Campbell's going like 1.5 seconds quicker than Down right now as well. So lap after lap, it means that Down's going to have to do a lot when the tyre undercut comes back around his way and the tyre advantage is back in his favour.
Well, it's... oh, hello, there's our first penalty. 5 seconds for Corey McFarlane for that contact with Rain Campbell. Campbell, I think, is playing this very well because he knows that he's going to have to take more fuel when the second pit cycle comes around. So in the short term, you have a light car, you have fresh tyres, you might as well give it the beans and get as much of a gap as you can so that provided the race stays safety car free, you can somewhat cover that fuel drop disadvantage. Down and Maloney finally make their way into pit lane, and potentially Stenberg's going to join them, and that will be the field cleansed for the first stop as Horton and Sapstead continue to fight over P13. Horton has been out there now for nearly 9 laps, and it shows. William Sapstead on the fresh rubber is looking great, and he will probably be able to hold the outside here or not. Horton's fighting this a bit too hard, potentially. And Sapstead takes a trip onto the grass, but Horton lifts off to let him have it.
They're both going to have pretty filthy tyres after that. Sean Campbell goes back through into the lead of the race, Down, dropping down as Blacklock and Myers go through. Ooh, it's close.
It is. Stenberg just coming out of the pit lane behind them. And so that's the situation there. Campbell 4 seconds in the lead, and then Blacklock, Myers, and Anderson in their own pack for second place. Down and Maloney on their lonesome. Jake Burton, Emily Jones, Zach Rattray White, and Rehan Leonage battling for 7th place. And Blacklock under attack now. Here comes Brady Myers. A little bit of a touch in the middle of turn 6. Blacklock will be saved from a pass from Anderson at the very least, but losing that effective second.
For a tiny bit, Blacklock has been Campbell's best friend. Brady Myers now, that significant tyre undercut, but also a pretty quick stop, beginning to light them up. That's what Myers needed. He needed that clean air now that he's got the fresh tyres. 1.5 laps old for Myers, while the 7 and 5.
Yeah, so here's the oldest tyres in the field at the moment. It's looking like there's a few with tyres now about 10 laps old. Horton is the first of them in 14th place, and he's getting rattled in terms of lap time at the moment. Ryan O'Sullivan, Ryan Jones, and Corey McFarlane all chasing him down here as Sapstead is quickly putting some space between himself and the 043. Further down the field, Jordan Severis also pitted about 10 laps ago, and it's the same for Jacob O'Reilly as well. Though O'Reilly did have a black flag on the way into the pits. Rain Campbell, 19th place, got Tyson Broad and Brett Loxton chasing him as Brady Baldwin tries to keep his campaign going. 11 positions up.
His tyres are a bit older than the guys behind him in this pack. It's Broad with the best tyres. They'll still be in a pretty sweet spot. He just completed 3 laps now as he crosses the line, so he's in behind Campbell, sort of sussing out what Campbell's going to do, and if Campbell won't go versus Baldwin, which he will, then it'd be Broad's turn.
Up the inside goes Rain Campbell, and have a look at the Orbit drop bear car of Tyson Broad. He's going to nab him as well on the way to turn 3, or is he? Baldwin gets into the back of him. That leaves the door open for Loxton. Can he take it through the right-hand blend of turn 4? Not quite. Broad's going to get back onto the racing line just in time for the turn 5 turn in there. Baldwin a bit late on the brakes there, but avoids getting into the back of Loxton. I love the racing this track produces.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Sam Blacklock won't necessarily be loving it. He's dropping back a little bit. I think I see some team orders going on here. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, trade between Down and Anderson.
Yeah, Down with the much fresher tyres by 7 laps, so Anderson basically just lets him go here. And this is a great work from Trans-Tasman Racing, because they had a couple of cars that sort of stopped early, and then they left some that stopped late, and then those that stopped late have got the fresher tyres. They're unleashing to try to hunt down Campbell, so they're attacking him from both sides. And they're attacking Blacklock on all sides as well. Gee, he might not like that.
Goodness me. Yeah, that was a bit deep from Anderson there. And Madison Down would sweep through later on in the lap, or would he? Oh, God, okay. Yeah, okay. So both of the TTR cars having their issues there with Sam Blacklock. Blacklock, I believe, a former TTR driver himself. He's driven for a few teams in his time. But they get away from it without much, if any, damage to their machines, and they can still maintain that solid pace. Rattray White now, the next driver to try and attack Emily Jones. Little tap in the middle of turn 3, but Jones stays stable. Rattray White has a 1-lap undercut on Jones, but a 4-lap undercut on Burton up ahead. And Rehan Leonage still hanging around in the background there, but Leonage, his tyres are 10 laps old now, so he'll be looking for his next opportunity to pit soon, but he'll have to deal with the pain for now. Blacklock now with Maloney on the back of him.
Yeah, Maloney just had a go at Sam Blacklock. Blacklock's had to fend him off and done so successfully so far, but you can see that Maloney's 7 laps fresher tyres. They're still in the prime for Maloney. They're just beginning to drop off a bit for Blacklock.
Up the inside at 13, rubbing wheels maybe a little bit, touching mirrors. Oh, touching more than mirrors there. Maloney gets the move done.
Reaching out, touching me, touching you.
I believe in a thing called love. Tell you what, Blacklock, I think his tyres have really fallen off the wagon here. Yeah, he's gotten a couple of biffs and barges, yes, but I think the tyres are more of a concern for him there. Anderson, I think, might have taken a bit better care of them.
And then keep an eye on that gap between Campbell versus Brady Myers. Myers was able to quite comfortably get past Blacklock, maybe not cleanly, but comfortably get past Blacklock, get past his teammates, and now he's trying to cut down Campbell's lead as Campbell's tyres are also starting to go away a little bit. Some action in the background there for Horton versus others, and this battle too, Campbell versus Broad. Whoa!
Whoa! That's why I love the final turn here. You get spectacular moments like that. Push just a little too hard, you get into a slide over the curb and the grass is there to greet you, but you can hold on to it. Tyson Broad, still same position he started in, P19, after all of the ups and downs of the race so far. But 3 laps, fresher tyres than Rain Campbell. So this could be Broad's chance to make up one position.
So we saw how great the racing was in that first stint, but then you get the series of pit stops and some cars get an undercut, they get a bit of track position, their tyres fall off, the other guys come back, there's some overlap.
That's big news there up the top of the screen. Joshua Anderson, a 5-second penalty for the contact with Sam Blacklock at turn 6. Oh, that is big. That's one of Trans-Tasman's most consistent heavy hitters, potentially out of the running for that podium. But that comparison you're making there between Sean Campbell and Brady Myers, it is looking good for Myers. Campbell, he got that gap going in the short term, got the gap out to about 4 seconds or so, but now the favour is starting to fall back to Brady Myers.
Not a lot of fuel difference between them though, because while they stopped 4-5 laps apart from each other, they both took about the same amount of fuel. Myers maybe just fractionally more and 0.4 quicker on the lap that they both just completed.
All right.
I feel pretty good about this if I'm Myers, to be honest.
Yeah, I would too. Gonna have a slightly shorter second stop and better tyre mileage. Things are looking good for the 22. How about the 11? Divide that number in half and you get Ryan Jones, who's got Josh Horton on his back, but Jones is the one with the advantage here. Horton's tyres are now 13 laps old. Goodness me, must be a nightmare to drive. Broad and Campbell still fighting hard. The exchange has been made and Tyson Broad is up into 18th position. And Loxton sitting in the background there. Got the trio of Baldwin, Mueller and Ross in the midst of it as well. But those chasing 3, they all have older tyres than the 3 up ahead.
Yeah, not a lot of tyre difference between the 3 led by Brady Baldwin. I'd bet a Villies sausage roll or 2 that Brady Myers would have saved a bit of fuel in that first stint where they all kind of just sat behind Blacklock and Campbell. And I said at the time, I think TTR are being just a little coy about the race pace that they do have at that point. Now Myers unleashes it a little bit, but he would have been just holding it back 98% at that point.
Back to the fight for just inside the top 30. Thomas Freeman has made some steady gains. Joshua Anderson comes into the pits for his second stop, and I would presume that the 5-second time penalty will be added on to that.
Perhaps a plan to make sure that's cleared before, if maybe a safety car comes, and then also to just continually throw something different at Sean Campbell. Some guys undercutting him, obviously Brady Myers, Jake Maloney running longer than Campbell, and you've got to cover the multiple strategies and also just put down good race pace. I think Campbell's been pretty consistent, but Myers is still just closing him in a tiny bit.
Yeah, looks like the gap is starting to stabilize between Campbell and Myers, and honestly, with the extra fuel that Campbell's going to have to take, that might be just enough for Myers to at least get right up to his bumper once they're through the second pit stop, which shouldn't be too far away. Both Anderson and Pepperell are the only drivers to have taken 2 stops so far and satisfied the minimum requirement. Anderson's second pit stop, 13 seconds. That tells me that he's just put in enough fuel to get to the end of the race and might have the 5 seconds added on after the checkered flag.
Yeah, based on our estimates on total fuel they're going to take, we thought it would be sort of on the 24 seconds or something like that total. And that's what Anderson's total pit stop time amounts to.
Well, here comes the 5:53 of Ryan Mueller, looking back from Brady Baldwin's rear wing, and Jordan Ross pops into view occasionally too.
The Brady Baldwin, if you will.
Ah, nice. I like that one. Out of the final 2 corners they come, and that looks like a great exit from Baldwin. It seems like Mueller wasn't quite able to get the exit he wanted. Such an important circuit for traction as the bend. Mueller decides his tyres have had enough and into the pits with him. 13 laps complete on those tyres. He'll be committing to another 15 laps, I think, to the end of the race from there.
Yeah, it's 15 or 16. So certainly it's going to be a longer final stint, but if you're looking to get a tyre undercut advantage, then that's how you're going to do it. You're going to put your first set of tyres on early, put your second set of tyres on early, and then just try to hold track position in the final stint. Easier said than done. Obviously, we've seen plenty of great overtakes, and here's another one. This is where Joshua Anderson has come out in a whole whack of traffic after his second stop.
That's not ideal for Anderson. He would have been hoping that taking his second pit stop, he'd at least have some clear air that he could use to try and limit the damage that 5-second penalty did.
Because now we come towards the second stop for the leaders. There's been more field spread. They can't as easily pit into clean air. The first stop, they could. Now, field spread, more cars spread across the track. Campbell, Myers, they got to go a little bit longer because otherwise they'd be a little bit ahead of Anderson. So, but they could still be, in the 20th, maybe in the, Broad, Campbell, Loxton, Baldwin, Ross mess and battle, and they don't want that.
No. We're hearing cars 470, 093, and 66 are the cars that the leaders want to clear. So that's the sort of Billy Mole, Jordan Siberis sort of area down in 25th and 26th at the moment.
Yeah, so race leader Campbell's first stint, 14 laps. He's now 12 on his current stint. And there's 14 laps to go. So even now is quite an early second stop. Expecting Campbell might at least go sort of 13, 14 again.
James Chastaneuf and Jamie Dyke, they battled for the win in Split 2, and now they are swapped and battling for 22nd in Split 1. Shasty with a slightly longer stop. Jamie Dyke pitting a lap later, so the battle is not over between these two. It's been taking place since we first went live this afternoon/evening, depending on where you are in Australia.
Or New Zealand, we love them too.
Of course. Can't count out the Kiwis, as it were.
Lest they embargo the Whittaker's chocolate or something.
Oh, I wouldn't be able to go without my Whittakers. Been a while since I've had some LNP as well. Looks like Thomas Freeman, potential slowdown. just seeing that Anderson was behind him on fresh tyres and decided not to fight it. In any case, it looks like a bit of clear air now for Anderson, only about 2 seconds or so.
Tyson Broad's gone wide, Rain Campbell's right underneath his rear wing, and that's another one of the battles that your leaders don't want to pit and emerge in the middle of this, the way that these guys have been fighting. Joshua Horton doesn't even want to be part of that. He's pitting. That begins to clear up a little bit more space as Horton and Chastanov make their second stop.
Yeah, Horton making those tyres last 17 laps. Must have been rough to drive on the in-lap. But he and Chasty will be cleared to the end of the race, and for Chastanov it looks nice and even. It was a 14-lap stint for him, and it's going to be about 14 laps to go once he comes out of the lane. Daniel McCrohan also visiting the lane for the second and final time here. McCrohan, one of the drivers that's been battling just inside the top 30 there. So now that we are in around that 13 laps to go area, is this the lap that we see Sean Campbell jump back into the lane? He's the one who's leading the charge at the moment, and whatever he does, TTR will do the opposite, I would imagine anyway.
Yeah, I mean, geometrically, just splitting up the lap count, now's a great time to pit, but looking at the field spread and the traffic, it's not necessarily. So that's the sort of thing where someone helping you out on the strategy from a team perspective can help, but Campbell's in.
Yep, into the pits he comes from the lead. Myers and Down will continue on for another lap. So that's 14 laps done for Campbell. That's going to be 13 laps to the end. So he was able to make the tyres last pretty well.
How much fuel's he going to need here, though, knowing that he only took 9 point something the first time around? And we're going to take a look at this for McCrohan, how he got a penalty.
Yeah, getting off the limiter a bit too early, it seems, and that gave him the black flag from iRacing. Watch for the yellow line there. Oh, I think he just got off the limiter like a millisecond too early. Either it was entry or it was just an instant too early off the limiter. Speaking of off the limiter, Sean Campbell is back out onto the racetrack, and he'll find his way back out there in 23rd position. McFarlane, O'Sullivan, Campbell and Siberis pit behind him. A 21.8 second stop for Campbell. That is crazy long. That's too long, surely.
Yeah, I mean, that's like McFarlane's first stop. Is there some kind of a problem you can have in pit lane that takes you that amount of time? Now immediately trying to put a bomb on Colangelo to move past, but should have been ahead of Colangelo. That might have, I think this has cost the win to Campbell, unless, Myers and the others massively fumble their stop, or the fuel consumption's way higher than we thought.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem right.
No. That perplexes me, because
behind Anderson.
Yeah. Entry and exit look okay for Sean Campbell, but mysteries over fuel.
He's more than 5 seconds behind Josh Anderson. Blacklock and Burton take their pit stops. They're going to be pretty close as well.
Rattray White joins Blacklock and Burton in there. So now for Sean Campbell, after leading the race pretty much the whole way, he has suddenly seen that victory fall out of his hands. The second stops for Blacklock, Burton and Rattray White. We'll see if that was an outlier for Sean Campbell, or if anyone else is going to have those same issues. They do not. Blacklock 12.8, Burton 12.5, and Rattray White with 13.9 seconds in the box. So Campbell is going to come out right there in front of Blacklock, but crucially, the TTR cars of Myers, Down, potentially Maloney, still might effectively be ahead of him.
Yeah, I think they're going to get him. He's 50 1.5 seconds behind the race lead. You thought 45 seconds or so is what it should be. Has he brimmed it at the second stop instead of just taking the 20-litre top-up?
I don't know. It's not enough for a brim, but it's still too long for a stop that just gives you the fuel you need to get to the end. Like, I genuinely don't know. It's
Mine's
very
down
strange.
Immediately, so I think that's kind of like a reaction to Campbell's stop, and then Campbell and maybe battling a bit with Blacklock. So all the TTR cars immediately respond because they know they can get in, get out, and probably be ahead of Sean Campbell. No point hanging out there when you've got a slam dunk advantage that you can bank right now.
Yeah, and Leonage, Kuznetsov, and Sapstead think the same thing. They all come in at the same time. Kurt Stenberg stays out, though. He's going to make it at least one more lap before he comes in for his final stop. Now, 12.5 for Brady Myers, 12.3. Madison down, nice quick stop, 11.6. Maloney a bit longer, 14.7. Everything's coming up TTR for the moment. Seems that Campbell is going to get Maloney at least, but he is behind Anderson, Down, and Myers. Off the podium.
Still got to wait on a pit stop for Kurt Stenberg, who's going to be scored the race leader for a moment, but basically everyone now jumping in for their second stop, approaching. So it's just 11 laps to go for them right now. Not a particularly long stint compared to some of the stints we've seen already. So yeah, get that second stop done. It's what Myers and Down have done. And Campbell's at least back within 5 seconds of Josh Anderson, for whatever that's worth. So I think Campbell is net podium still.
Yeah, I think so. With the 5-second penalty for Anderson, that will put him behind Campbell as things currently stand. So, and we do know that Campbell's pace is right up there with the top guys, if not a little faster. So, it's still not entirely over for the American, but a safety car would be really handy for him right now.
I don't see it happening unless Siberus repeats how he was handling the gearbox in qualifying, or someone else does the same. It's the only way it happens is someone launches a motor on a downshift. Surely there's so few walls that you can hit here in the wide open space in South Australia.
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's have another look at Campbell's pit stop while we have a chance here. So, into the pits, on the anchors, and slowed down perfectly. Pretty much nailed that entry. And then, as he transits all the way down this crazy long pit lane, an FIA Grade 2 circuit, of course, it has a long enough pit lane and enough garages for something like the World Endurance Championship.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, fingers crossed indeed. Already had Asian Le Mans series here in previous years, and coming to a stop right in the first pit box, up on the jacks, and yeah, as we find our way through here, I think that. Does the car go up and down? It doesn't look like it's a tire change error. I think he might have just put too much fuel in.
Roll bar adjustment?
True. You can change roll bars at pit stops in these cars. Maybe that's what he decided to go for, but
it takes longer than the fuel would. It takes longer than the tires would. In a complete, car's empty and you put 100 litres in, you've got time for a free roll bar adjustment, but not the way this race is configured. You don't. So if you changed that roll bar setting and then come into your pit stop, then it would take the 20 seconds. Maybe McFarlane did that too. That's possible. That's a thing that you could do that would keep the car up on the jacks for 20 seconds. without being a ludicrous massive overfuel, is if you don't realize how long a roll bar adjustment in the pit stop is going to take.
Yeah. Maybe we have that answer there. Potentially also, the issue for Campbell is that he forgot to take fuel at the first stop, because I mean he got the tires on the car and that was it. And these cars do fuel and tires at the same time, but you leave fuel unchecked and yeah, there's then you got a problem on your hands. Well, a couple of different potential answers to the issues there for Sean Campbell. Keep an eye on Ryan O'Sullivan, Josh Horton and Ryan Jones. 15th place up for grabs for Horton and Jones. And of these drivers, Jones is the one with the best tyres. It's only a lap's difference each between these cars, but as we've seen many times before at many different tracks, but especially here, one lap can make all the difference.
So I think I'm seeing absolutely everyone has made their second pit stop now that Jacob O'Reilly is in and transiting the pit lane. Biggest movers remain, William Sapstead, Rayhan Leonage, Brady Baldwin, of course. Brett Loxton, James Chasanoff and Jamie Dyke have made a couple.
And it looks like Brady Baldwin has competition for the Hard Charger Award. Jamie Dyke up 9 positions. Loxton, Chasanoff and Lawford also having some good runs up through the field.
Sapstead doesn't feature on that, but I think his +5 is pretty impressive because he made a lot of really good moves around sort of turn 1, 2 and 3, and it's for some pretty serious position going from 18th to 13th. So
yeah, right in the midfield. Right in the midfield, which is perhaps the most treacherous place of all to be. So, well done to Sapstead for now. And here comes the catching pack. Sean Campbell chased down by Sam Blacklock, Jake Maloney and Jake Burton. All of these drivers with a slight undercut there on our former race leader and pole sitter. But Campbell is gaining big on Josh Anderson. 6-7 tenths gained the last 3 laps running, and it looks like Brady Baldwin's run in this race is going to come to a premature end. 5-second penalty for contact with Ryan Mueller, all the way back on lap 32. Well, I say all the way back, it was only 2 laps ago.
Feeling that might have happened while we were looking at the replay of the pit stop.
Must have.
Tell you exactly what happened there, other than right now, Baldwin is a lot further up the road than Ryan Mueller is.
Yeah, so obviously, big stoppage for Ryan Mueller. Keep an eye on Josh Anderson for now, as we see Baldwin here at turn 3 up the inside of Ryan Mueller. It only looked like a small tap, but it turned into something much larger.
Yeah, not a whole lot of overlap going into 3. Well,
oh, okay. Yeah, I think that tells the story there. There were 2 parts to this episode. Baldwin up the inside of turn 1, tags the rear quarter, and then tries to go for the move again at turn 3 and gives him a tap again, and it was enough to send Mueller around. Well then, Baldwin will have that added to his race time, and it looks like his Synergy teammate Jordan Ross right on the back of him as well, as we flick our way back up to Kurt Stenberg and Rick Kuznetsov.
Yeah, sure do. Not long after the pit stop, these were some of the last drivers to make the second stop. Kurt Stenberg obviously leading a lap or 2. Lost a little bit of time at phases, particularly I think around how late he stopped the first one. He sort of put himself into a bit of traffic by being undercut by a few people and didn't quite get that time back in the middle stint. He's getting a little bit back now behind Kuznetsov. Zach Rattray White 2 seconds up the road, not much older tyres than these guys there. So you see these three, but they're not quite in contact with Rattray White and the top 10.
Yeah, one incident though, and that can all change. There's still plenty of chance for that with 6 laps to go for our leaders. Trans-Tasman podium lockout for the moment, but remember that Anderson still has that penalty that he's going to serve. McFarlane is dropping down the order.
Uh-oh, I think the engine's gone.
Oh, yeah, that's a mechanical black flag for Corey McFarlane, and the engine's dead. Can he make it back to pit lane is the question. There is a bit of a downhill here you can get some momentum on, but this is in the last part of the lap. There's an uphill yet to come. Does McFarlane have any throttle, any power at all?
Oh, there's an irony right here.
Oh no. Yes, I see it. Right up next to the digital flag display. And right by a marshal's post, so if this were a real-world event, he could easily get out of the car and to safety. And well, is that worthy of just a tow granted without a safety car? I think it might be.
Yeah, I can see that. Got the holes in the fence to climb through, and he is stopped there, the number 94, just a couple of corners from home.
Real shame, because aside from that little sequence, the final part of the lap is quite flat. So if things were a little different, he might have been able to get it back to the lane. Let's see how it happened for him. So this was on the way into turn 13. Was it under acceleration or under braking? Ah, okay.
Double downshift into third, I think. I think he's requested the downshift into fourth, and it's given him third.
Man, it always sucks when that happens. You want to only go down one gear at a time, but sometimes out of nowhere, it'll be 2 gears down, and that's too much for these engines to handle. They are quite tough engines in these cars, but the rev limit is 7,500 RPM for a reason.
Initially for the regulations and some kind of cost control, but then at that point, why do you build an engine that... You're not going to build an engine to sustain 12,000 RPM if you're only allowed to do 7,500. So they don't overbuild them by a massive margin, even if they do overbuild them a bit.
Yeah, they can take a beating, but even engines in these cars will go pop if they're pushed too hard, and we see that quite a bit in the various V8 Supercar series that are run on the iRacing service. Well, we're within 5 laps to go, and it looks like Campbell is making tracks on Blacklock here, and on Anderson as well. This whole pack following very closely. The lap times for Anderson only 0.2 slower than that of Campbell.
But they're all within 5 seconds of him now, all of them.
Yeah. So this is disastrous here for Anderson. All it took was that little bit of contact, and race control slap him with the 5 seconds. That'll put him down to 7th place at least.
And now we're on Emily Jones' watch, 6.5 seconds back. Might be a tough 1.5 seconds to get. We'll see. It depends what happens if Campbell and Blacklock and those do get close enough, what Anderson does.
Well, it's also worth pointing out that Anderson has the oldest tyres in the field at the moment. Apart from Pepperell, who's been out there for 23 laps, apparently, on the same set of tyres, which is frankly insane. But Anderson out there for 13 laps on those tyres now. Major speed advantage for everyone behind him. Speaking of... outside the top 10 here, Rattray White now has Kuznetsov and Stenberg for company.
Well, a while ago they weren't in contact. Now I definitely say they are in touch.
Oh, they are. Rattray White lost 0.7 seconds on the previous lap. On this lap, He loses another 0.2 or so to Kuznetsov, half a second to Stenberg. Well, that's deep.
Does he have to fuel save? Did he short fill?
Looking at the pit stop, it seems that 14.2 seconds for Rattray White on my timing. I think he has enough fuel to get to the end.
Yeah, it's just something to think about. I don't have at hand what his first stop was for the combined, but his second stop certainly doesn't scream short.
Little mystery there. O'Sullivan and Horton, they've kept each other close company.
I think O'Sullivan
this
wide.
race.
Thinks Horton got sideways.
Yeah, both of them seem to be having problems there, which is music to Ryan Jones's ears, I think.
Horton was quicker last lap of the whole group, though. Perhaps a little wide of 11, but then again, so many of these are then about, hey, how do you set up for 12? How does 12 set you up into 13? And then the next sequence a little bit further down the hill here as well. Sort of 14, 15, 16. 13 is sort of standalone here, even though it rises over a crest, which makes the exit difficult.
Our leaders come around to make it 3 laps to go. Madison down, slightly quicker than Brady Myers' last 3 laps running. But Brady's still looking very good out in front, 0.8 of a second the gap. This is a view back from Anderson. As Campbell, Blacklock, Burton and Maloney now start to queue up behind. And is that wide on entry for Campbell? Just a little, but he uses that to late apex the run out of the corner. Ultimately works out pace-wise about the same as everyone else. Another thing I love about this track, multiple lines possible through many of these corners, and so that leaves you open to experiment.
Blacklock looks a little impatient back there as well. Campbell's been trying to open up some of these lines to get a run at Anderson, and Blacklock keeps kind of looking for if the inside's going to open there, and also trying to fend off Jake Burton and Jake Maloney. Maloney at the tail of this pack with the freshest tyres of the lot of them as well. So this could still kick off. It'll be about 2.5 laps to go amongst this group.
Burton vaulting it into turn 12. And then the run into 13. Surprisingly popular overtaking spot, or at least attempts at an overtaking spot. Let's largely follow the leader through those final few turns. Back to Rattray White, Kuznetsov and Stenberg. They are getting ever closer. Stenny was struggling for a rear end grip across the curb there. And a little bit further back still, Brett Loxton just grabbing P20 with Brady Baldwin in tow. Loxton and Dyke are now the hard chargers in the field at 10 positions each. And here's where things start to develop here. Campbell attempts at the inside of Anderson, but I think now Anderson knows that he's got 2 of his teammates in tow here, and he wants to try and keep Campbell behind so that they have a chance to regain something. That's a lot of turn there through turn 3. And they're going to slow each other up going side by side through turn 5 here. Campbell's going to back out of it, but he can translate that into a dive at turn 6, which is covered by Anderson. Now he's on the defense. Campbell locks up, and Blacklock nearly turns him around there, but it looks like Anderson's backing himself into this pack.
Oh, another touch there on Blacklock from Burton. Burton backed out earlier to not overlap Blacklock by as much as they went into that sequence of right-handers, but then got close, and Anderson's parking it at apexes. He's got a couple of knock-knock hellos from Sean Campbell, who hasn't gotten through yet.
It's tightened up the front as well. It's down to 0.3 between Down and Myers. The race has suddenly exploded into a bunch of action. things are getting leery between Rattray White, Kuznetsov and Stenberg for 10th as well. I saw Kuznetsov have a couple of lunges at Rattray White, so there's still plenty of developments left in this race. And we aren't too far away from the final lap. It looks like they've come together for 10th. Kuznetsov gets into Rattray White, and Stenberg is going to take advantage. Almost sweep through there. Bit of a slide for Kuznetsov. Loses momentum on the exit. Rattray White gets into the rear. And up the inside at the penultimate turn. Delays
Brady
the turn
Myers
in just a
takes
bit.
the race lead. As they start the final lap, Brady Myers takes the race lead. Campbell's going to have another look at Anderson, but they've swapped here.
Yeah, they have. No. Myers has been blinking out. He's having connection issues to the server, so it looks like he was trading spots, but doesn't look like he was. Burton, meanwhile. And Campbell and Anderson. There goes Campbell, finally past Josh Anderson. Now, will Sam Blacklock take advantage of the lack of momentum for TTR number 36? Oh, bit of grass there. They come together in the braking zone, and Anderson turns across the front. Oh, all right, up the inside goes Jake Maloney. I feel like that worked out exactly how Anderson wanted it to, really. Extra position for one of his teammates there, but ultimately Campbell getting past as well, back on the podium. Meanwhile, Madison Down and Brady Myers will make it to the finish here in the lead. Trans-Tasman has had one of their most successful V8SCOPS seasons ever as a team. They spent a couple of seasons out of the limelight, having their time taken up with other series, but they came back in a big way in 2025, and they're about to put on another 1-2 finish here in the hands of Myers and Down. Nothing much to be said about moves to be made in the last two turns. All it takes is one right-hander and a little clip of the curb from Madison Down, and he'll watch Brady Myers take victory at the bend.
Sean Campbell's going to come around for third, but he's still got Jake Maloney all over him. Blacklock's in fifth. Anderson's gone to the tail of this group as Burton has gone by. Campbell, it's what could have been. He's 11 seconds behind the race lead, having taken 12 seconds more time in pit lane with a mistake.
Yeah, who knows how the race could have ended up if he hadn't made that error. Whatever it might have been, a few possibilities for that one. Ryan O'Sullivan and Joshua Horton are 14th and 15th place finishers, and Brady Baldwin still with 5 seconds of time penalty hanging over his head. Going to finish 20th ahead of Loxton, but looking at the times there, it looks like he's going to be put down to 24th behind Jamie Dyke.
Only just a couple cars left on that lead lap to take the checkered flag. Freeman, Ken Latta, Sean Colangelo. McCroran was actually the first one lap down based on having to serve an extra drive-through, which was so penalising here. Russell Pepperell as well, I think is going to be a lap down.
Yeah, makes sense. Pepperell taking what looks like 3 trips to the pit lane. No, only two. Man, a rough race for some, but a great race for others. Brady Myers takes victory ahead of Madison Down, and our pole sitter Sean Campbell rounds off the podium there, with Sam Blacklock finishing behind Jake Maloney to round out your top 5. Jake Burton, Josh Anderson, Emily Jones, Ryan Leonage, and Kurt Stenberg are your provisional top 10. Anderson will be put behind Jones as a result of his 5-second penalty.
Yeah, that had taken to 18.5 seconds, still just ahead of Leonage, but I think it affected how he fought in that other battle and might have actually cost him more spots than that in a sense. I mean, excitement in the final kind of laps there as Campbell came through to third. Behind them in 11th place was Zach Rattray White. William Sapstead 6 positions gained into 12th, so he got ahead of Kuznetsov late on there. And then Ryan O'Sullivan in 14th, Joshua Horton in 15th. Ryan Jones in 16th, Tyson Broad, Rain Campbell, Jordan Ross, and Brady Baldwin is 20.
21st place, Brett Loxton with James Chastanerf 1 and a bit seconds behind. About the same to Ryan Mueller with Jamie Dyke, Angus Lawford, Billy Moll and Jordan Sibera separated by 9.6 seconds or so. Thomas Freeman, no qualifying time, but managed to get through the 28th. Kenneth Ladder with a pit lane start, 29th ahead of Ocean Colangelo, who dropped hard in that race, unfortunately. Got involved in the wars, as did many tonight. Daniel McCrohan started from pit lane as well, with Russell Pepperell finishing a lap down with him. Matthew Morris, Jacob O'Reilly and Corey McFarlane 4 and 6 laps down respectively, with, it seems, O'Reilly and McFarlane retiring, I believe, Matt Morris as well. So unfortunate for those at the back of the field. I was looking forward to a great race from McFarlane in particular, but his engine had other ideas. Well, it's time to get through to driver interviews, and the first we're going to talk to is, I think we'll go in reverse podium order for this one. Sean Campbell is the first one to join us here after starting from pole position on V8SCOPS debut. Mr. Campbell, what went wrong in the second pit stop?
It actually went wrong in the first pit stop, believe it or not. So tires, right? We take tires, and in that time period, you can take fuel and not lose time. And I didn't take any fuel. I just didn't do it for some reason. And that was about 8 seconds worth of fuel, which seemed to be the difference almost on the final stop coming out. But
yeah,
they would have had better tires as well since they did the overcut, so they probably would have got me. But yeah, that was just dumb on my part, but it's okay. I was too busy having fun with the cars, you know?
Absolutely. You look like you were having a great time out there. It took some cajoling and poking from the Orbit Drop Bear guys, but yeah, your first round in this series, and you pole it and get on the podium. Does that mean we can expect you in future rounds as well? Have you had this much fun?
It's been the most fun I've had in these cars. It's an opportunity to drive these cars, which is always a good excuse no matter what, right? So I will definitely do as many races as I can.
Hopefully we'll see you around Enduro time as well, Sean. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
The Orbit guys, basically. Without them, I wouldn't be in this position, you know? I wouldn't be able to race this series, etc. And they're just a bunch of good guys.
Well, he's fast in a GTP, certainly fast in a supercar as well. That's Sean Campbell for Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport. Next up is our second place finisher, Madison Downs, stood by with David Haynes.
Another V8SCOPS round, another podium, Madison. Great racing between yourself against Sean Campbell and with Brady Myers. It's close in the end.
Yeah, it was a really good race. Like for us, we were just managing fuel and tyres. It was probably a little bit of a boring numbers game from Brady and I to watch, but yeah, just manage fuel and tyres to make sure we could minimise our stop time and have our best, I guess, speed over the course of those 3 stints. And yeah, I think we did that really well. Obviously, bad luck to Sean. I know he made a little bit of a strategic error, taking too much fuel in the first stop, it sounds like. So he's done a really good job this round, like to put it a pre-qual pole, then pole in the race, then be leading half the race. He's come onto the scene and done a great job. But yeah, close race at the end there with Brady. Just couldn't quite get him at the end.
And how were you, I guess, as a team approaching it? Because there sort of looked like a bit of a split. Yourself and Brady went long, some of the others, and Jake Maloney went long, and then some of the others stopped short after that first run.
Yeah, we didn't really communicate it too much, to be honest. Like, obviously, Josh Anderson in that lead group went really early. I'm actually not sure why he did that. I think that ended up costing him. He was in a different channel to Brady and I, and I think that hurt him a little bit in the long run there. But as soon as we saw him do that, we, I guess, hedged our bets and went, well, he's gone short, we'll go long. That gives us both options. So whatever option wins, it doesn't really matter for us. We're going to have a car up front either way. So that, I guess, having that many cars in the top 10 gives you the flexibility to do some different things. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Brady and I were kind of racing each other and we were racing Sean. So we were closely following what he was going to do and trying to work out what the best way to win the race was. And thankfully, we were able to do that. Yes, probably got a bit lucky as well, but our pace was good the whole way through, and I think strategically we probably made the right calls.
And the weather today, just clear skies, pretty consistent track temps, dropping a tiny bit across the race, but no rain like Hockenheimring, no sweltering conditions or clouds coming and going.
Yeah, back to how we know it. I mean, for us, in probably the last 2 or 3 months, we've been really strong, wet or dry. Obviously, we had a really good result in the wet as a team last week at Hockenheim, but we've been strong in the dry as well. So for us, it doesn't really matter. We're just putting our best foot forward and trying to make sure that we keep this momentum going, because we've had really good speed overall, but in particular, it's been race pace that we've been really strong. So seems like we've kind of made a few steps forward in those last few months, and now seeing a lot more results coming as a result.
Well done, and yeah, we'll see how things go for the remainder of V8SCOPS for you guys, and sort of the level of consistency you're all bringing across the teammates, pushing each other, pushing the competition, and consistently scoring. It'll pay its rewards in the end.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we got a lot of cars up the front, but in the championship order, it looks pretty good for us. But it's always tough each and every round, and it can happen. But look, a massive shout out this week. We had lots of different setup directions. Massive shout out to the whole team. I mean, it had some pretty incredible results. I think we had all the cars finish in the top 10 tonight. So to have 3 or 4 different setup directions and whatnot, there wasn't just one setup. It was going every which way, and we're using VRS to compare each other's data and that type of thing as well. So massive thank you to the whole team. The effort recently has been really good.
Awesome. We'll catch you around Madison. Thank you for stopping by and chatting.
Cheers, guys.
Brilliant stuff from Madison Down, but we wouldn't expect anything less from him, and we certainly wouldn't expect anything less from Brady Myers as well, who comes home with the victory here at the Bend. You look like you were having a good time out there, Brady. A bit of a close race between you and Madison at the end. Madison explained the strategy to us. I guess you just had some time out front to enjoy the Bend.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I wasn't sure how I was going to enjoy the track, actually, looking at supercars and all that sort of stuff, but come, race time, I actually really enjoy the flow of the track. It's good fun to race. Yeah, it was good fun to race Matt at the end. A bit stressful. My PC decided to have a few dramas towards the end, so not really ideal, but, we got there in the end.
That explains why you were blinking at the end there. That was a bit scary. We were afraid that you'd lose that. But still, continuing the great form that Trans Tasman have had over the last few months. Another 1-2 for the team. And it looks like with news that's just come in from Race Control of a 5-second penalty for Sean Campbell for contact with Josh Anderson, that elevates your teammate Jake Maloney onto the podium. So another podium lockout.
Yeah, it's been a strong running for the team this year. We've in this series we've really hit the ground running and shown up, and with whatever the stewards and all the admins have thrown at us strategy-wise, we've managed to come out on top. And yeah, so it's sorry, gone blank.
All good, all good. I'll save you, and we'll look forward to next round. Okayama on the 24th of August, a track that we should all be very familiar with. I think every iRacer has driven laps around that, at least in the rookie series, and it's been a pretty good V8 track in the past as well. It'll be interesting to see how Gen 3 goes there. Yeah,
I'm very curious how Okayama will go in this car. Being a sort of low speed sort of track, I think it'll suit these cars for racing quite well. So, interested and curious to get there and get going.
Excellent stuff. Well, maximum points for you from this round. Anyone you want to thank for your efforts?
Yeah, just a big shout out to everyone at TTR. Thanks to Mads and Josh Anderson for helping with the setup, and Jake Burton this week. Made a pretty good package and managed to lock out the podium, as you say. Big thanks to simracing.com. Thanks to Derek for being on my car this year. Extreme Motor Trimming. Ethan and Blair at Card Effects. Lee Ellis Design. Tim Pattinson Race Design. And to you guys for the broadcast.
Thanks for joining us, Brady. See you in Japan.
We'll do that. See you there.
All right, leave Brady Myers to celebrate as we close off tonight's broadcast here for round 8 of V8 SCOPS. As we mentioned, David, we're going to Okayama for round 9. Another track that has been recently refreshed. It's gotten some little graphical upgrades and I believe 3D curbs as well. So it's going to be a fun one when the Gen 3 supercars hit the track.
They upgraded the main straight grandstand. It actually blocks some of the old cameras. Keep an eye out on that one. But yeah, be a good track. Lots of switchbacks, low speed stuff. Can't wait.
Absolutely. That's going to take place on the 24th of August. The support category, the V8s, will be running on the Friday before that. So it's going to be a big weekend. Saturday, Dan, is it? All right. Special Saturday night SCOPS supports for round 9. So, yeah, make sure to tune in on that particular weekend. Got a few weeks to wait, but it's going to be well worth the wait. V8 SCOPS finally coming to the Bend as this newest track to iRacing has put on a fantastic show tonight. Looking forward to seeing it make appearances in many series for many years to come. I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes alongside me in the comms box, and Dan Yeaman producing behind the scenes here on SimSpeed TV. Whichever platform you've come from, we thank you for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day wherever you are. We'll see you next time.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.